Hello everyone, and welcome to the fictional vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was a Saiyan who mastered Ultra Sage Instinct. Naruto x Vados x Marcarita, Dragon Ball Super. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Worlds collide. The ground fractured beneath Naruto's feet as chakra surged through his body, raw, uncontrollable, and somehow different. Something felt wrong. The familiar warmth of Kurama's power mixed with his own chakra. But now strange flickers of golden energy sparked between his fingers like lightning he couldn't command. "What's happening to me?" Naruto whispered, staring at his trembling hands as the battlefield around him blurred and shifted. The fourth great ninja war had reached its climax. Kagaya Otsutsuki hovered above the devastated landscape, her Rinne Sharingan. I fixed upon him with alien indifference. Sasuke stood 20 meters to his right, breathing heavily, the blood from a dozen wounds staining his torn clothing. Sakura and Kakashi were somewhere behind, providing support where they could. But the battle, the very fabric of reality, had taken an unexpected turn. "Naruto." Sasuke's voice cut through his momentary distraction. "Focus. Something's wrong with her technique." Kagaya's arms extended outward, the sleeves of her flowing kimono rippling in dimensions that shouldn't exist. The sky above them cracked, not metaphorically, but literally, as though reality itself were a ceramic bowl splitting under pressure. Through the fissures, Naruto glimpsed impossible colors and stars arranged in patterns he'd never seen. "I feel it too," Naruto called back, his voice sounding strangely distant even to his own ears. "My chakra is acting weird. Like it's resonating with whatever she's doing." Sasuke's Rinnegan widened. "She's not doing this intentionally. I think we damaged the dimensional barriers when we countered her last attack." The battlefield distorted. Trees bent at impossible angles, rocks floated upward, and the very air seemed to crystallize into geometric patterns that fractured and reformed with each passing second. Naruto felt a tugging sensation deep within his core, not just on his chakra, but on something more fundamental. Something he'd never consciously recognized before. "Naruto-kun." Hinata's voice came from behind him. She'd rushed to the front lines despite orders to stay back with the medical corps. Her Byakugan was fully activated, veins bulging around her eyes as she stared at the fracturing sky. "Your chakra network, it's changing." Before Naruto could respond, Kagaya screamed, not in rage but in what sounded like fear. Her body contorted as she tried to regain control of whatever cosmic forces she'd accidentally unleashed. "The dimensional boundaries are collapsing," she shrieked, her usually emotionless face twisted in panic. "The seals between worlds, they're breaking." The crack in the sky widened, revealing a swirling vortex of purple, gold, and blue energies. Lightning without clouds arced across the battlefield, striking randomly and leaving strange geometric burns where it touched. One bolt struck meters from Naruto, and rather than scorched earth, it left behind a perfect circle of what appeared to be glass showing stars and galaxies in motion. "Naruto!" Sasuke shouted, leaping toward him. "We need to seal her now, before." His words were cut short as a pulse of energy radiated outward from Kagaya. Not an attack. Something involuntary, as though the goddess herself had become an epicenter for reality's collapse. The wave passed through everything, and as it touched Naruto, every cell in his body seemed to remember something his mind had forgotten. Pain erupted through him, not external but internal, as though his very DNA was unraveling and reknitting itself. He fell to his knees, golden energy crackling around his body, intertwining with the familiar orange chakra cloak of Kurama. "What's happening to me?" he gasped, watching as his hands pulsed with power he'd never felt before. "Naruto-kun." Hinata reached him first, dropping to her knees beside him. Her hands hovered over his shoulders, her Byakugan scanning his transforming chakra network. Our chakra is changing. There's another energy mixing with it. Something I've never seen before." The vortex above expanded suddenly, the sound of reality drowning out everything else. Gravitational forces shifted wildly, rocks, trees, and bodies of fallen shinobi began rising toward the breach. "Everyone, take cover," Kakashi yelled from somewhere distant, his voice barely audible over the cosmic thunder. Naruto felt the pull strengthening, his body becoming lighter. The strange energy within him responded to the vortex, resonating like a tuning fork struck at precisely the right frequency. He realized with sudden clarity that whatever lay beyond that tear in space was calling to something buried deep within him, something that had always been there, dormant and waiting. "Sasuke!" he shouted, reaching for his friend as both of them began lifting off the ground. "The sealing technique, we have to try." Sasuke struggled forward against the gravitational pull, his hand stretching toward Naruto's. Their fingers were inches apart when a secondary pulse erupted from Kagaya, who now floated helplessly toward the vortex, her arms outstretched in a final attempt to stabilize the dimensions. "The child of prophecy," she whispered, her eyes finding Naruto's amid the chaos. "You never belonged to this world to begin with." Her cryptic words struck Naruto like a physical blow. Before he could process their meaning, the gravity shifted again, more violently this time. Hinata, who had been clutching his arm, was pulled upward with him. "Naruto-kun," she cried, her grip tightened, as they accelerated toward the vortex. "Hinata, let go, save yourself," Naruto yelled, but even as he said it, he wrapped his arms around her protectively. If they were going to be pulled into whatever cosmic abyss awaited them, he wouldn't let her face it alone. "I won't leave you," she shouted back, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. The last thing Naruto saw before they entered the vortex was Sasuke's face. A mixture of shock and determination as he too was lifted toward the breach. Then Kagaya's body seemed to dissolve into particles of light, scattering across He-dimensional barrier like seeds in the wind. And then they were falling. Not up into the vortex, but through it, through layers of reality that peeled away like pages in a burning book. Colors no who, man eye was meant to perceive surrounded them. Sounds beyond comprehension filled their ears. Naruto felt his consciousness stretching, thinning, then snapping back like an elastic band pulled to its limit. Through it all, he held on to Hinata, her presence the only anchor in a sea of cosmic chaos. Then, suddenly, silence. Darkness. Peace. Naruto awoke to the sound of waves lapping against a shore. His body felt simultaneously heavier and lighter than he remembered, as though gravity itself had changed its mind about how it should affect him. He kept his eyes closed, taking inventory of his condition. Nothing seemed broken, but everything felt different. His chakra flowed through pathways that felt wider, deeper than before. Kurama's presence remained, but altered somehow. The fox's energy intermixed with something wild and primal that coursed through his veins like liquid fire. "Interesting," came a soft, refined voice from somewhere above him. "Your energy signature is unlike anything I've encountered in several millennia." Naruto's eyes snapped open. He lay on a beach of purple sand beneath a sky that contained three suns, one large and orange, two smaller and blue, arranged in a triangle. The ocean before him wasn't water but some kind of shimmering, translucent fluid that moved with greater viscosity than any liquid on Earth. Standing over him was a tall, slender figure holding a staff. At first glance, he appeared human, but his pale blue skin, white hair styled in an upward sweep, and the glowing halo floating above his staff marked him as something else entirely. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, his voice raspy. He sat up quickly, memories flooding back. "Where's Hinata? Where am I?" "One question at a time, if you please," the figure replied with a gentle smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I am Whis, attendant to Lord Beerus, god of destruction for Universe 7. Your companion is resting comfortably over there." He gestured with his staff toe. Art a small shelter constructed of driftwood and palm-like leaves where Hinata lay sleeping. "And as for where you're on planet Melodia, one of the few remaining habitable worlds in the Zaran system." Naruto blinked, processing information that made almost no sense to him. "God of Destruction, Universe 7, what are you talking about? I need to get back to my friends, the war." "I'm afraid," Whis interrupted smoothly, "that the dimensional disturbance that brought you here has already collapsed. Returning to your point of origin would be complicated, to say the least." Naruto stood, noticing that his movements felt unnaturally fluid and powerful. The orange chakra cloak he'd been maintaining during the battle was gone, but something else hummed beneath his skin, an energy that felt both foreign and intimately familiar. "Look," he said, trying to sound diplomatic despite his growing concern. I appreciate you helping us, but I really need to get back. My friends are in danger. There's a war happening, and a war in the pocket dimension you call home. Yes, Whis nodded. A rather interesting little reality bubble, tucked away in the folds between universes 6 and 7. Not quite belonging to either, yet drawing aspects from both. Quite the curiosity. Naruto's patience was wearing thin. If you know where it is, then you can send us back, right? Whis tilted his head, studying Naruto with ancient eyes that seemed to see through him. Perhaps, eventually. But first, I'm much more interested in you, Naruto Uzumaki. Or should I say, Naruto of the House of Paragus. The unfamiliar name hit Naruto like a physical blow. What did you call me? Oh my, Whis said, tapping his staff lightly against his palm. You don't know, do you? How fascinating. The dimensional bubble must have suppressed your true nature, allowing you to adapt to its internal laws of physics and energy manipulation. My true nature, Naruto repeated, a strange feeling of dread and anticipation building in his chest. What are you talking about? Whis waved his staff, and the air between them shimmered. An image formed, a spherical spacecraft, small and white, designed for a single occupant. Inside was a baby with spiky blonde hair and whisker-like marks on his cheeks. Approximately 20 Earth years ago, Whis explained, this spacecraft passed through a dimensional weakness, a natural one. Not the artificial tear you recently experienced. Inside was a Saiyan child, sent away from planet Vegeta before its destruction. The image changed, showing the pod entering a swirling vortex similar to the one that had brought Naruto here. The pod emerged in that pocket dimension you call home, crash landing in a forest outside the village of Konohagakure. The rest, as they say, is history. Whis dispelled the image with another wave of his staff. Though I must say, history took quite an unexpected turn in your case. Naruto stared at the space where the images had been, his mind racing. You're saying, I'm not human, that I'm from somewhere else. The concept seemed absurd, yet something deep within him resonated with Whis's words, a truth his body recognized before his mind could accept it. You are what's known as a Saiyan, Whis confirmed. A warrior race from planet Vegeta in this universe. Quite formidable in their own right, though most were destroyed decades ago by Lord Beerus's associate, Frieza. Naruto's legs felt weak. He sat back down on the purple sand, trying to process this information. But I have parents, Minato and Kushina. They seal the nine-tailed fox inside me when I was born. Did they? Whis asked, raising a delicate eyebrow. Or did they find a mysterious child with unusual energy potential and recognize an opportunity? The sealing of that interesting chakra construct may have further suppressed your Saiyan nature, allowing you to develop as though you were native to that dimension. Memories flashed through Naruto's mind. His meeting with his parents' chakra imprints, their explanations about his birth, their sacrifice. Had it all been a fabrication? Or had they simply hidden the truth, perhaps to protect him? I don't believe you, Naruto said. But his voice lacked conviction. Your belief isn't required for truth to be truth, Whis replied without any sign of offense. Though I understand this must be quite the shock. Perhaps a demonstration would help. He pointed his staff at Naruto, and a beam of light struck the young man's chest. Naruto gasped as information flooded his consciousness, images of a warrior race with tails and the ability to transform under a full moon, histories of battles across galaxies, the destruction of a planet by a tyrant's hand, and the survival of a precious few Saiyans scattered throughout the universe. Your unusual energy signature is what caught my attention, Whis explained as Naruto processed the download of information. A mixture of Saiyan ki, this, chakra, a construct from your adopted dimension, and something else, a natural energy manipulation that few beings in any universe have mastered. Naruto's hand unconsciously moved to his stomach, where the seal containing Kurama had been. He could still feel the fox's presence, but it seemed different. More integrated with his own energy. The nine tails, he murmured. Is he still your symbiotic relationship with that fascinating consciousness remains intact, Whis assured him. Though the nature of your shared energy has evolved, I suspect the dimensional transition acted as a catalyst for a more complete integration. A groan from the shelter caught their attention. Hinata was stirring, her eyes fluttering open. "Naruto-kun," she called, her voice weak but clear. Naruto was at her side in an instant, moving with a speed that surprised even him. "I'm here, Hinata. Are you okay?" She sat up slowly, her lavender eyes focusing on his face before widening as she took in their alien surroundings. "Where are we? What happened?" "We're far from home," Naruto answered, unsure how to explain something he barely understood himself. "This is Whis. He's been helping us." Whis approached with a small bow. "A pleasure to meet you properly, Lady Hyuga. Your companion and I were just discussing his rather unexpected heritage." Hinata's Byakugan activated instinctively, and she gasped. "Naruto-kun, your chakra network, it's completely transformed." "Yeah, about that," Naruto began, but was interrupted by a sudden rumbling sound that shook the beach. The three suns overhead seemed to dim simultaneously, as though something massive had passed between them and the planet. Whis looked up, his usual serene expression replaced by mild concern. "It seems Lord Beerus has noticed our new arrivals. How unexpected. He rarely wakes from his naps for anything less than a planetary destruction appointment." "Planetary what?" Naruto asked, helping Hinata to her feet. "Destruction," Whis repeated casually. "It is his divine purpose, after all. Though I wouldn't worry too much. He's been in quite a good mood since his recent culinary tour of the southern galaxies." The sky darkened further as a massive, pyramid-shaped vessel descended through the atmosphere, coming to hover about a kilometer above the beach. A beam of purple light shot down from its underside, and in it appeared a figure that made Naruto instinctively tense. Tall and thin, with purple skin and distinctly feline features, the being wore ornate Egyptian-style clothing and radiated power unlike a thing Naruto had ever sensed. Not merely strong, but fundamentally different, as though this creature existed on another plane of reality altogether. "Whis," the being called out, his voice carrying easily despite the distance. "I sensed a disruption in the dimensional fabric." "Explain." "Lord Beerus," Whis replied with a respectful nod. "How unexpected of you to investigate personally. May I present Naruto Uzumaki, a Saiyan child who was lost to a pocket dimension some years ago and has recently returned under rather interesting circumstances." Beerus descended to the beach, his bare feet touching the purple sand without leaving prints. His golden eyes fixed on Naruto with predatory intensity. "A Saiyan? I thought we were down to just Vegeta, Kakarot, and their half-breed offspring." He circled Naruto, sniffing occasionally. "This one smells different. There's something unusual about his energy." "Indeed, my lord," Whis agreed. "He appears to have developed in a dimension where energy is manipulated through what they call chakra, a fascinating system that combines physical and spiritual energies in ways quite different from conventional ki manipulation." Beerus stopped directly in front of Naruto, his cat-like face inches away. "Is he strong?" The question caught Naruto off guard. He defeated a dimensional entity called Kagaya Otsutsuki," Whis interjected smoothly. "A being who, while not on the level of a god of destruction, could certainly have given several Supreme Kais a run for their money." This seemed to please Beerus, whose whiskers twitched with interest. "As that's so, perhaps a demonstration is in order." "Lord Beerus," Whis cautioned, "our guests have only just arrived and are still adjusting to the dimensional transition." Beerus waved a clawed hand dismissively. Fine, they can rest, but I expect a proper display of this chakra power once they've recovered." His eyes narrowed as he studied Hinata. "And what about this one? She doesn't have Saiyan energy at all." "This is Hinata Hyuga," Whis explained. "A human from the same pocket dimension, possessing a fascinating ocular ability that allows her to perceive energy systems in detail that would impress even the most observant Kai." Hinata bowed respectfully, years of noble upbringing kicking in despite the bizarre circumstances. "It's an honor to meet you, Lord Beerus." Beerus seemed amused by her formality. "At least this one has proper manners." "Very well, Whis, I'll leave them in your capable hands. Bring them to my planet once they're ready for a proper evaluation." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and have the blue-haired one prepare some of that delightful ramen dish Kakarot is always going on about. If these two are from a similar cultural background, they might appreciate it." With that, Beerus disappeared in a flash of purple light, the massive ship overhead retracting its beam and ascending back into space. "Well," Whis said cheerfully, "that went better than expected. Lord Beerus must be in an exceptionally good mood today." "That was the god of destruction?" Naruto asked, finally finding his voice. "He seemed, I don't know, not as destructive as I expected." "Oh, don't let his casual demeanor fool you," Whis cautioned. "Lord Beerus has destroyed galaxies for serving him undercooked meals. You're fortunate he's recent L.Y. discovered the culinary delights of Earth and is therefore feeling rather benevolent toward humanoid species at present." Hinata stepped closer to Naruto, her hand finding his. "Naruto-kun, what did he mean about you being a Saiyan?" "What's happening?" Naruto squeezed her hand reassuringly, though he felt far from reassured himself. "Apparently, I'm not originally from our world. I'm from here, this universe. I'm part of an alien warrior race called Saiyans. That's..." Hinata's voice trailed off as she processed this information. Then, with characteristic acceptance, she nodded. "That WOULD explain the changes in your chakra network. The Byakugan shows me that your energy now flows through pathways that didn't exist before." "You believe it?" Naruto asked, surprised by her calm reaction. Hinata smiled gently. "Naruto-kun, after everything we've seen and done, is it really so hard to believe that there are worlds beyond our own?" Besides, she activated her Byakugan again, studying him. "Your energy has always been special. Different. Perhaps this is why." Her acceptance warmed something inside Naruto, easing the existential vertigo that had been threatening to overwhelm him. Whatever the truth of his origins, whatever strange twists fate had in store, having Hinata by his side made the uncertainty bearable. "Now then," Whis interrupted their moment with a polite cough. "Since Lord Beerus has expressed interest in your abilities, I suggest we begin your orientation to this universe immediately. The dimensional transition has already begun adapting your energies to Fu. Enection according to our universal constants, but controlling them will require training." "Training?" Naruto perked up despite himself. No matter the circumstances, the promise of learning new techniques always captured his attention. "Indeed," Whis nodded, a knowing smile playing across his lips. "If my observations are correct, your unique combination of Saiyan Ki and this chakra could potentially lead to some truly remarkable abilities. Perhaps even something akin to what the angels possess." "Angels?" Hinata asked. "Oh my, we do have much to discuss, don't we?" Whis tapped his staff on the ground, and the beach around them dissolved, replaced by the interior of what appeared to be a spacious study filled with holographic displays and floating books. "Let's start with the basics of cosmic hierarchy, shall we? In the beginning, there was Zeno, the Omni King. Hours later, Naruto's head was spinning with information about gods of destruction, supreme Kais, angels, and E12 universes that made up the multiverse. According to Whis, the Shinobi world existed in a pocket dimension, a reality bubble that had formed naturally in the space between universes 6 and 7. Adopting aspects of both while developing its own unique properties. "So our entire world is just some cosmic accident?" Naruto asked, trying not to sound as disheartened as he felt. "I wouldn't put it quite that way," Whis replied, dismissing a holographic display of the multiverse with a wave of his hand. "Think of it more as a unique evolutionary branch, neither lesser nor greater than the main universes, simply different. Your pocket dimension developed its own gods, its own natural laws, its own history. But it's still in danger," Naruto insisted. "Kagaya, the dimensional tear, my friends were fighting for their lives." Whis studied a floating orb that displayed real-time images of what appeared to be the shinobi world. The battlefield where they'd fought Kagaya was visible, though time seemed to be moving differently there. Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi were frozen in positions of combat, as though caught in a single moment. "Fascinating," Whis murmured. "The dimensional disruption has created a temporal anomaly. From their perspective, barely seconds have passed since your departure. So we can go back?" Naruto asked hopefully. "Help them finish the fight." "It's not quite that simple," Whis cautioned. "The dimensional barrier is currently in flux. Attempting to cross it could cause further instability, potentially even collapse the pocket dimension entirely." Naruto's fists clenched in frustration. "So we're stuck here while they're in danger?" "For the moment, yes," Whis confirmed. However, if my calculations are correct, the barrier should stabilize within approximately 3 months, local time. Once that happens, creating a controlled passage should be possible. 3 months, Naruto repeated, dismayed. But what if they can't hold out that long against Kagaya? As I said, time is moving differently there, Whis reminded him. 3 months here might translate to mere minutes in your world. Besides, he added with a knowing smile, this gives us an opportunity to help you understand and control your newly awakened Saiyan abilities. When you do return, you'll be far better equipped to handle threats like this Kagaya person. Hinata, hoo-ha, D-Bin quietly absorbing information while periodically scanning their surroundings with her Byakugan, finally spoke up. Whis-san, you mentioned that Naruto's energy is unique, a combination of Saiyan Ki, chakra, and natural energy. What does that mean for his abilities going forward? An excellent question, Lady Hyuga, Whis replied, clearly impressed by her analytical thinking. Traditional Ki manipulation is practiced by the Saiyans focuses on raw power, transformations that multiply one's strength, speed, and energy output. Chakra, as you use it, seems more versatile, allowing for element manipulation, physical transformations, and even dimensional techniques when properly applied. He created another holographic display, this one showing Naruto's internal energy systems, a complex net work of chakra pathways intertwined with what appeared to be the Saiyan equivalent of Ki channels. The natural energy component, what you call Sage Mode, is particularly interesting, Whis continued. It bears some similarity to divine Ki, the energy used by gods. The fact that you can perceive and manipulate it suggests potential that few mortals possess. So what does that mean, exactly? Naruto asked, studying the holographic representation of his energy system with fascination. It means, came a new voice from behind them, that you represent a rather intriguing anomaly in the cosmic order. They turned to find a tall, slender woman with pale blue skin similar to Whis's, long white hair pulled into a high ponytail, and a staff topped with a floating orb. Her expression was one of cool curiosity as she studied Naruto and Hinata. Ah, sister, Whis exclaimed, seeming genuinely surprised. What brings you to Universe 7? Lord Champa hasn't sent you to steal Lord Beerus's pudding again, has he? Nothing so trivial, brother, the woman replied, her eyes never leaving Naruto. I sensed a disruption in the dimensional boundaries between our universes, an energy signature unlike any I've encountered before. She approached Naruto, circling him much as Beerus had done earlier. So this is the source. How fascinating. Naruto, Hinata, Whis said with a formal gesture, may I present my sister, Vados. Attendant to Lord Champa, god of destruction for Universe 6. Another god of destruction, Naruto asked warily. Each universe has its own, Vados confirmed. Along with supreme Kais to create and gods of destruction to, well, destroy. It maintains the cosmic balance. She leaned in closer, examining Naruto with unnerving intensity. But you don't fit neatly into that balance, do you? A Saiyan from Universe 7, raised in a pocket dimension between universes, wielding energy that draws from multiple cosmic sources. Is that bad? Naruto asked, uncomfortable under her scrutiny. Bad, no. Vados straightened, tapping her staff thoughtfully against her palm. Unprecedented, certainly. Potentially problematic for those who prefer the established order, possibly. But mostly, interesting. She turned to her brother. Have you informed the Grand Priest? Not yet, Whis admitted. I thought it prudent to assess the situation more thoroughly first. Wise, Vados nodded, particularly given the recent tensions regarding dimensional breaches. The siblings exchanged a meaningful look that made Naruto suspect there was much more to the story than they were sharing. In any case, Vados continued, turning back to Naruto, I believe Universe 6 has as much claim to your situation as Universe 7. After all, your pocket dimension drew from both our universal constants. What exactly are you suggesting, sister? Whis asked, his perpetually pleasant tone gaining an edge of caution. Merely that the boy's training should be comprehensive, Vados replied smoothly. Universe 6 possesses resources that would be most beneficial, including, I might add, a small population of Saiyans who evolved quite differently from those in your universe. Saiyans, in your universe too, Naruto perked up at this information. Indeed, Vados confirmed. Though the Saiyans of Universe 6 developed along a more civilized path than their Universe 7 counterparts, they never became planet-conquering mercenaries, instead establishing themselves as peacekeepers for their galactic sector. Naruto's mind raced with possibilities. Other Saiyans, people who might help him understand his newly discovered heritage without the bloody history Whis had described. I believe, Vados continued, addressing both Naruto and Whis, that a cooperative approach would be most beneficial. The boy spends time training in both universes, learning from the unique resources each has to offer. Whis considered this for a moment before nodding. A reasonable suggestion, sister. Though Lord Beerus may have something to say about sharing such an interesting specimen. As might Lord Champa, Vados countered with a slight smile. Perhaps we should let them resolve it through the usual channels. A competition, Whis sighed. That could get rather destructive. Not necessarily. Vados tapped her staff, and a holographic image appeared, a massive arena floating in space. The tournament of destroyers is scheduled for the near future anyway. Why not make this part of the stakes? Tournament. Naruto's eyes lit up at the word. Despite the cosmic confusion surrounding him, the prospect of testing his skills in competition was always appealing. A contest between universes, Whis explained. Lord Beerus and Lord Champa have a rather competitive relationship. They occasionally settle their disputes through tournaments featuring champions from their respective universes. The winner of the upcoming tournament could claim primary training rights, Vados suggested. With the loser granted secondary access, of course. Whis nodded slowly. That might work, and it would give our new friends here time to acclimate to their new circumstances before being thrust into inter-universal politics. Excellent. Vados clapped her hands once, decisively. Then it's settled. In the meantime, she turned to study Hinata, who had been quietly observing the exchange. This one has potential as well. Her visual abilities could be enhanced beyond their current limitations with the right training. I was thinking the same thing, Whis agreed. The Baya, Kugan's perception abilities already rival some aspects of divine sight. With proper development. Excuse me, Hinata interrupted, her voice soft but firm, but Naruto-kun and I need a moment to discuss this. Everything is happening very quickly, and we haven't had time to process all of this information. Both angels looked momentarily surprised, as though they weren't accustomed to being interrupted by mortals. Then, simultaneously, they inclined their heads in acknowledgement. Of course, Whis said. How thoughtless of us. You've been thrust into an entirely new cosmology with barely a moment to adjust. We shall give you privacy, Vados added. Though I must return to Universe 6 soon to inform Lord Champa of these developments. The angels moved to the far side of the study, engaging in quiet conversation that, despite Naruto's enhanced hearing, he couldn't quite make out. Naruto-kun, Hinata whispered, taking his hands in hers, are you okay? This is a lot to take in. Naruto let out a shaky breath. I honestly don't know, Hinata. Finding out I'm not even from our world, that I'm some alien warrior race, it's like everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie. Not everything. Hinata squeezed his hands reassuringly. You're still Naruto Uzumaki. You're still the person who never gives up, who believes in others, who fights to protect what's precious to him. Where you were born doesn't change who you've become. Her words washed over him like a soothing balm, easing the existential ache that had been building since Whis' revelations. Thank you, Hinata. I don't know what I'd do if you weren't here with me. We'll figure this out together, she promised. And if learning about these Saiyan abilities helps us save everyone back home, then isn't it worth exploring? Naruto nodded, a new determination building within him. You're right. If I can become stronger, learn to control whatever this new power is, then when we go back, we'll be able to end the war once and for all. Exactly. Hinata smiled, then glanced toward the angels. Though I'm not sure I like the idea of being treated like some prize in a competition between gods. Yeah, that part's weird. Naruto agreed with a grimace. But if it gives us access to training from both universes. He paused, a thought occurring to him. Wait, Hinata, what about you? They keep talking about my potential and training. But you're stuck here too. I don't want you to be sidelined. I won't be, Hinata said with quiet confidence. Did you notice how they reacted to my Byakugan? I think they see potential in it that even the Hyuga clan never recognized. This could be an opportunity for both of us to grow stronger in ways we never imagined. Naruto marveled at her composure and insight. The shy girl who used to hide behind trees had grown into a woman of remarkable strength and wisdom. You're amazing, you know that. A blush colored her cheeks, but her gaze remained steady. We should tell them we're willing to learn, but not as prizes to be won. We're shinobi of the hidden leaf, not trophies. Right, Naruto nodded, standing up straighter as they turned back toward the angels. Hey, Whis, Vados. We've made a decision. The angels paused their conversation, turning to face them with identical expressions of polite interest. We're willing to learn about this universe, about Saiyans. About all of it, Naruto declared. But we're not objects to be won in some tournament. We're shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village, and we make our own choices. Rather than appearing offended, both angels seemed pleased by this declaration. Of course you do, Whis agreed readily. The tournament was merely a convenient framework to prevent our respective lords of Dest Ruction from coming to blows over training rights. Your autonomy was never in question, Vados added. Merely the scheduling of your educational opportunities. Naruto blinked, thrown off balance by their easy acceptance. Oh, well, good, then. In fact, Whis continued, your spirit of independence is precisely what makes you interesting. Beings who merely follow orders rarely achieve the kind of potential we're discussing. Speaking of potential, Vados interjected, turning to Hinata, your ocular abilities are truly fascinating, Lady Hyuga. In all my millions of years, I've encountered few mortal techniques that so closely approximate certain aspects of divine perception. Hinata bowed slightly, maintaining her composure despite the casual reference to Vados's incredible age. Thank you. The Byakugan has been passed down through the Hyuga clan for generations, though I believe its full capabilities are still not fully understood. Indeed, Vados agreed. With the right training, you might develop abilities that your clan elders never dreamed possible. The ability to perceive not just chakra or ki, but time itself, past, present, and potential futures. Hinata's eyes widened at the suggestion. Is that truly possible? With the right instruction, many things are possible, Vados replied with a mysterious smile. The question is whether you're willing to push beyond the limitations you've been taught to accept. Naruto recognized the calculating look in Vados's eyes. She was interested in Hinata not just as his companion, but as a unique talent in her own right. The realization both reassured and concerned him. On one hand, Hinata would not be overlooked. On the other, he sensed that Angel's interest was rarely without complicated implications. For now, Whis interjected. Apparently sensing the conversation had progressed far enough, I suggest we focus on immediate needs. You both require rest, nourishment, and time to acclimate to the universal constants of our dimension. Yes, Vados agreed, and I must return to inform Lord Champa of these developments before he hears it from other sources. Brother, I trust you'll take good care of our interesting new friends until arrangements can be finalized. Of course, Whis nodded. Perhaps a visit to Earth would be beneficial. The presence of other Saiyans might help young Naruto come to terms with his heritage. Earth. Naruto perked up at the familiar name. You mean there's an Earth in this universe too? Indeed, Whis confirmed. Though I suspect it differs somewhat from the Earth you might know from your pocket dimension. This Earth is home to several Saiyans, including Prince Vegeta and his rival, Kakarot, or Goku, as he prefers to be called. Other Saiyans, Naruto murmured, conflicting emotions washing through him. Fear, curiosity, anticipation, the prospect of meeting others like him, of learning about a heritage he never knew he had, was both exciting and terrifying. It's settled then, Vados declared, moving toward what appeared to be an exit. I shall return within 3 local days with Lord Champa's response. Until then, brother, do try not to let Lord Beerus destroy anything important. With a flash of light from her staff, she vanished, leaving the study suddenly feeling emptier despite her brief presence. Well then, Whis said cheerfully, shall we prepare for your first interstellar journey? Earth awaits, and I believe you'll find its inhabitants quite illuminating. As Whis busied himself with preparations, Naruto and Hinata exchanged a look that contained volumes, uncertainty, determination, and the silent promise to face whatever came next together. Whatever strange twist of fate had brought them to this reality, whatever truths awaited about Naruto's origins, they would navigate it as they had everything else, side by side. Unknown to them, across the cosmos, other eyes had taken notice of the dimensional disruption, eyes bellow. NGING to beings with their own plans for the unusual Saiyan who walked between worlds. The game board of cosmic politics had gained a new piece, and the next move was about to be made. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, The Saiyan Sage. Starlight rippled across the crystalline hull of Whis' transportation cube as it soared through the vacuum of space. Inside, Naruto pressed his face against the transparent barrier, mesmerized by the cosmic ballet unfolding before him. Nebulae in impossible hues of violet and emerald stretched across the void, punctuated by stars that pulsed with vitality that somehow felt tangible. "It's alive," he whispered, more to himself than to his companions. "All of it. I can feel it breathing." Whis, standing at the cube's center with his staff extended, cocked his head. A fascinating observation. Most beings require centuries of training to perceive the living essence of cosmic bodies. Naruto pulled back from the barrier, embarrassed. "I didn't mean literally. It just looks." "No, you're quite correct," Whis interrupted. "Stars do breathe, in their fashion. They inhale matter and exhale energy in cycles that span billions of years. That you can intuit this speaks to your sage abilities." Beside Naruto, Hinata activated her Byakugan, gasping softly as her enhanced vision perceived what Naruto had sensed. The energy flows. They're like chakra pathways spanning the universe. Precisely. Whis beamed at them both. The universe is, in many ways, a macrocosm of the living body. Energy flows through pathways, collects in nodes, disperses through various systems. The primary difference is scale, not fundamental nature. Naruto ran a hand through his spiky blonde hair, still struggling to reconcile his identity as both shinobi and Saiyan. The revelation of his alien heritage had shaken him to his core, yet something about it felt right, as though a puzzle piece he hadn't known was missing had finally clicked into place. "How much longer until we reach Earth?" he asked, partly to distract himself from his existential crisis. "Approximately 17 minutes at our current velocity," Whis replied, "which gives us just enough time to discuss what to expect. Earth's Saiyans have quite distinct personalities." Whis tapped his staff, and holographic images appeared in the center of the cube. The first showed a serious-looking man with flame-like black hair. Arms crossed over a blue battle suit. "This is Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans, though his kingdom now consists of precisely himself and a handful of others. Proud, meticulous, and rather obsessed with surpassing his rival." The image changed to show a taller, more relaxed-looking man with spiky black hair and an orange eye. Kakarot, known to Earthlings as Son Goku. Unlike most Saiyans, he was raised without knowledge of his heritage, which resulted in a rather unique personality. Cheerful, perpetually hungry, and possessed of a combat genius that belies his otherwise simple nature. "He's like me," Naruto murmured, studying Goku's image. He didn't know he was a Saiyan either. "Indeed, though the similarities extend beyond that," Whis agreed. "Both of you possess an unusual talent for befriending former enemies and an insatiable drive to improve. I suspect you'll get along famously, assuming Lord Beerus doesn't destroy the planet over another culinary misunderstanding before introductions can be made." "Is that likely?" Hinata asked, concern evident in her voice. "Oh, I wouldn't worry too much," Whis replied with a dismissive wave. "Earth has become one of Lord Beerus's favorite culinary destinations. He's unlikely to destroy it until he's sampled all 8 million varieties of pizza they apparently offer." Naruto wasn't entirely reassured by this, but before he could press further, the cube decelerated abruptly. The cosmic streaks of light resolved into a familiar blue-green planet that sparked an unexpected pang of homesickness in Naruto's chest. "Earth," he whispered. Though not his Earth, the sight of oceans and continents, clouds and landmasses, offered a welcome anchor of familiarity in the cosmic strangeness that had become his life. The cube descended through the atmosphere with impossible speed yet no sensation of movement. Within moments, they were hovering above what appeared to be a massive compound, a collection of dome-shaped buildings surrounded by expansive grounds. "Capsule Corporation," Whis announced. "Home to the Briefs family, Prince Vegeta, and some of the most advanced technology in Universe 7. Also, conveniently, where we'll find our Saiyan subjects. The cube touched down on a manicured lawn. As its crystalline walls dissolved, Naruto's enhanced senses were immediately bombarded with input, the rich scent of flowers and grass, the distant hum of machinery, and most significantly, the unmistakable pressure of powerful key signatures pulsing from within the largest building. "They've sensed us," Naruto noted, instinctively dropping into a subtle ready stance. His shinobi training had left its mark. Always prepare for hostility when entering unknown territory. Indeed, Whis seemed amused by Naruto's caution. "Though there's no need for concern. They're quite accustomed to my visits, if not always to the guests I bring." The main building's door slid open, and a woman with turquoise hair emerged, wiping her hands on a towel. She wore a lab coat over casual clothes, and despite her delicate appearance, carried herself with unmistakable authority. "Whis, what a surprise." Her eyes flicked curiously to Naruto and Hinata. "And you've brought friends. Please tell me Lord Beerus isn't far behind, demanding another feast." "My culinary staff is still recovering from his last visit." "No need for alarm, Bulma," Whis reassured her. "Lord Beerus remains at his temple, though he sends his compliments on the molten chocolate explosion from your last gathering. I believe it rendered him unconscious for a full 16 hours. Bulma looked simultaneously proud and exasperated. "That man's sweet tooth will bankrupt me." She turned her attention to the newcomers. "I'm Bulma Brief, resident genius. And apparently the universe's most overqualified caterer." Naruto stepped forward, extending his hand as he'd seen Whis do during introductions. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and this is Hinata Hyuga. We're, not exactly from around here." Bulma's eyebrows rose as she shook his hand. "That's putting it mildly. Your energy signature is unusual. Not quite Saiyan, but definitely not human either." "You can sense energy?" Naruto asked, surprised that a seemingly ordinary human possessed the ability. 20 years around these muscle-headed aliens, you pick up a few tricks," Bulma replied with a wink. Speaking of which, she turned toward the building and shouted with unexpected volume, "Vegeta! Get out here, we have visitors." Naruto winced at the decibel level, his enhanced Saiyan hearing making the shout particularly painful. Within moments, the door slid open again, and the flame-haired man from Whis' hologram emerged, followed by the taller Saiyan in orange. "Woman, must you shr? Iek Laika," Vegeta's complaint died on his lips as his eyes locked onto Naruto. His posture shifted instantly from annoyed to alert, his ki flaring subtly as he assessed the newcomer. "What is this? Another Saiyan? Impossible." "Not impossible, merely improbable," Whis corrected cheerfully. "May I present Naruto Uzumaki, a Saiyan child who, like Goku, was sent away from planet Vegeta before its destruction." Unlike Goku, however, his pod encountered a dimensional anomaly that transported him to a pocket dimension with unique properties. Goku approached with none of Vegeta's caution, his face lit with open curiosity. "Wow, another Saiyan. That's awesome, but you don't feel exactly like a Saiyan. Your energy is weird." "Kakarot, your observational skills remain as eloquent as ever," Vegeta said dryly. Though his eyes never left Naruto. The boy's energy is mixed, Saiyan ki interwoven with something else entirely. "Chakra," Hinata offered quietly. "Where we come from, energy is manipulated through a system called chakra, which combines physical and spiritual energies." Vegeta's sharp gaze shifted to her. "And what are you? You don't have Saiyan energy at all." "I'm human," Hinata replied, meeting his intimidating stare with surprising composure. "From the same dimension as Naruto-kun." HMPH. Vegeta crossed his arms. "A dimension where humans and Saiyans coexist. Interesting. And what brings you to our universe, boy?" Before Naruto could answer, Goku bounced forward with childlike enthusiasm. Hey, are you strong? Can we fight? I've never fought someone who uses this chakra stuff before." "Kakarot," Vegeta snapped. "Control yourself for once. Can't you see they've just arrived?" "Actually," Naruto said, a familiar competitive spark igniting within him, "I wouldn't mind a spar. I could use a benchmark to understand how my abilities compare in this universe." Whis tapped his staff on the ground, drawing everyone's attention. "While I appreciate the Saiyan enthusiasm for immediate combat, perhaps we might begin with a more controlled assessment." Young Naruto is still adjusting to the dimensional transition and learning to control his newly awakened Saiyan abilities. Newly awakened. Vegeta's interest sharpened. You mean he didn't know? Not until yesterday, Naruto confirmed, still finding the word strange in his mouth. I grew up thinking I was human. Well, mostly human. It's complicated. Fascinating, Bulma interjected. Why don't we continue this inside? I can run some scans while you all catch up on your Saiyan bonding rituals or whatever testosterone-fueled activities you have planned. Naruto shot Hinata a questioning glance, and she nodded reassuringly. I'd be interested to learn more about the technology here, if you don't mind, she said to Bulma. A woman after my own heart. Bulma declared. Come on, I'll show you my lab. The boys can beat each other senseless in the gravity chamber after they've finished their meet and greet. As the women headed inside, Vegeta stepped closer to Naruto, circling him with critical assessment. You have Saiyan features, the hair, the build, but something's different. Your eyes are wrong. No pure Saiyan has blue eyes. Maybe he's mixed, like Gohan and Trunks. Goku suggested, peering curiously at Naruto. No, Vegeta shook his head decisively. The boy's ki has Saiyan purity at its core. Whatever alterations exist came after birth, not through heredity. Perceptive as always, Vegeta, Whis commented. Naruto's unique energy signature results from his development in a dimension where different natural laws apply. Additionally, he hosts a sentient energy construct within himself, a being of considerable power. You mean like Boo was for me? Goku asked, scratching his head. Not exactly, Naruto said, unsure how to explain Kurama to these strangers. The nine-tailed fox, Kurama, is sealed inside me, but we're partners now. He lends me his chakra, and I give him, well, freedom from loneliness, I guess. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. A symbiotic relationship with an energy being. Unusual, but not unheard of. The question is whether this, Kurama, enhances or limits your Saiyan potential. Quote, that remains to be determined, Whis interjected smoothly. Which is precisely why a controlled assessment would be beneficial. Shall we proceed to this, gravity chamber, Bulma mentioned. The gravity chamber resembled nothing Naruto had seen before. A spherical room lined with panels of blinking lights and metallic surfaces. At its center stood a control console covered in buttons, switches, and digital displays. This chamber can simulate gravitational forces up to 500 times Earth normal, Vegeta explained with evident pride. Essential for proper Saiyan training. We'll start you at 10G, a suitable level for a novice. Naruto bristled slightly at being called a novice but held his tongue. In this world, with these powers, perhaps he was. Before we begin, Whis said, stepping between them, a demonstration of your current abilities would be instructive, Naruto. Show us how you manipulate chakra in your dimension. Naruto nodded, centering himself. With practiced ease, he formed a cross with his fingers. Shadow clone jutsu. Puffs of smoke erupted around him, resolving into 5 perfect copies of himself. The clones grinned in unison, each radiating the same energy signature as the original. Goku clapped delightedly. Cool, they're not just illusions, they're real. Like the multi-form technique, but without dividing your power. Vegeta looked less impressed but undeniably intrigued. Interesting. A physical duplication technique that doesn't dilute your energy. Inefficient by key standards, but potentially useful tactically. That's not all, Naruto said, motioning to one of his clones. Together, they held out their hands, focusing chakra between them. Swirling energy coalesced into a compact sphere. Rasengan. The glowing blue orb spun in his palm. Its contained power evident even to non-sensors. Whis leaned closer, examining the technique with professional interest. Remarkable compression and rotation. Containing the energy in a self-sustaining system without external stabilization. Most key techniques of similar composition would require constant focus to prevent detonation. Naruto dispelled the Rasengan in his clones, then closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they had transformed, horizontal pupils surrounded by orange pigmentation. This is Sage mode. It lets me draw in natural energy and blend it with my own chakra. Vegeta stepped back instinctively, his expression shifting from skepticism to wary respect. His power just increased substantially. And that energy, it's similar to God Ki, but different. Rar. Less refined. Natural energy is everywhere, Naruto explained, feeling the familiar rush of Sage Mode enhancing his perceptions. Most people can't sense or use it, but with training, you can draw it in and combine it with your own power. Like the spirit bomb, Goku exclaimed, but you're holding the energy inside yourself instead of gathering it into an attack. Spirit bomb, Naruto questioned, a technique that gathers small amounts of energy from all living things, Whis explained. Quite devastating when fully charged, though painfully slow to prepare in combat situations. Goku nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, usually everyone has to distract the bad guy for like 5 episodes while I get it ready. Naruto wasn't sure what Goku meant by episodes, but before he could ask, Vegeta stepped forward. Enough demonstrations. Let's see how your techniques function under proper Saiyan training conditions. He moved to the control console, adjusting several settings. 10 times Earth's gravity, a suitable starting point. A low hum filled the chamber, and Naruto immediately felt the increased pressure. His body, already heavier, strained against the invisible force. Sage Mode helped him adjust quickly, natural energy reinforcing his muscles and bones. Interesting, Vegeta observed. You're adapting faster than expected. Your GE mode appears to compensate for your lack of proper Saiyan conditioning. It enhances my physical abilities, Naruto confirmed. Strength, speed, durability, everything gets a boost. Show me, Vegeta challenged, dropping into a fighting stance. Attack me with your full strength. Don't hold back. You couldn't hurt me if you tried. The prince's arrogance reminded Naruto painfully of Sasuke, triggering both nostalgia and competitive fire. Without further hesitation, he lunged forward, his sage-enhanced speed cutting through the heavy gravity. Vegeta blocked his first punch with a forearm, eyes widening slightly at the impact. Naruto pressed the advantage, launching into a taijutsu combination he developed during the war, a series of unpredictable strikes designed to create openings. Through misdirection rather than raw power. To his surprise, Vegeta matched him move for move, blocking or dodging each attack with precise economy of motion. The Saiyan Prince wasn't just strong, he was technically brilliant, reading Naruto's patterns and countering with practiced ease. Your form is unorthodox but effective, Vegeta commented, deflecting a roundhouse kick. You rely on unpredictability rather than overwhelming force. A tactical fighter, and you're reading my moves too easily, Naruto replied, jumping back to reassess. Time to change things up. He formed shadow clones again. But instead of the usual 5 or 10, he created 50, filling the gravity chamber with copies. Each clone moved independently, surrounding Vegeta in a sea of orange and black. Impressive, Whis commented from the sidelines. Maintaining this many duplicates under increased gravity demonstrates remarkable chakra control. Vegeta smirked, unintimidated by the numerical disadvantage. Numbers mean nothing without power behind them. The clones attacked in waves, coordinating with a synchronicity born from sharing a single consciousness. Vegeta moved with increasing speed, dispatching clones with efficient strikes that caused them to disappear in puffs of smoke. Yet for every clone he eliminated, the others gathered tactical data, analyzing his fighting style and preferences. Now, Naruto commanded, and the remaining clones simultaneously threw kunai from all directions. Vegeta dodged with contemptuous ease, exactly as Naruto had anticipated. The real attack came from below, where the original Naruto erupted from the floor with a Rasengan aimed at Vegeta's chest. For the first time, surprise registered on the Saiyan Prince's face. He twisted at the last moment, the SWIRLING sphere grazing his armor instead of striking directly. The glancing blow was enough to send him skidding across the chamber, though he remained upright. Clever, Vegeta acknowledged, inspecting the damaged portion of his armor. Using duplicates as both distraction and information-gathering tools. Then attacking from an unexpected angle. Goku clapped from his position near the control panel. That was awesome. The clone thing is super useful. Hey, can you teach me that? Doubtful, Whis interjected. Naruto's shadow clone technique relies on chakra principles that don't easily translate to ki manipulation. Though perhaps with study, Vegeta straightened, his expression hardening. Enough warm-up. Let's see how you handle a real Saiyan attack. Without warning, his aura flared brilliant white, power radiating from him in palpable waves. Naruto's sage senses registered the dramatic increase in energy, like comparing a candle to a forest fire. This, Vegeta announced with evident pride, is but a fraction of true Saiyan power. He vanished from sight, reappearing directly before Naruto with his fist already in motion. Even with Sage Mode's enhanced perception, Naruto barely registered the movement before impact. The punch connected with his crossed arms, sending him flying backward into the chamber wall with enough force to dent the reinforced metal. Pain blossomed across Naruto's body, but with it came a strange, unfamiliar sensation, a thrumming excitement that resonated through his very cells. Some part of him, something primal and distinctly non-human, was enjoying this. Your durability is impressive, Vegeta noted as Naruto peeled himself from the wall. A normal human would have been liquefied by that strike, even with your energy reinforcement. Naruto wiped a trickle of blood from his lip, grinning despite the pain. Is that all you've got? The taunt was automatic, born from years of bravado in the face of superior opponents. But something about it felt right, felt Saiyan, in a way he couldn't articulate. Vegeta's lips curled into a smirk that contained equal parts annoyance and approval. The boy has the Saiyan spirit, if nothing else. Naruto, Whis called from the sidelines, perhaps now would be an appropriate time to attempt accessing your latent Saiyan ki. The combat stimulus appears to be activating dormant pathways in your energy system. Naruto nodded, closing his eyes to focus inward. With Sage Mode active, he could perceive the complex network of energies within his body, the familiar flow of chakra, Kurama's massive reservoir of power. And something else, something that had always been present but never activated. A wellspring of raw power that responded to the thrill of battle, to the pain of injury, to the challenge of a worthy opponent. I can feel it, he murmured. It's like a pilot light that's always been burning, waiting for more fuel. That's your Saiyan ki, Vegeta confirmed. Responsive to combat stimulus and emotional intensity. Unlike human energy, which depletes with use, Saiyan ki grows stronger through battle and recovery. Every fight, every injury survived, increases your potential ceiling. So how do I tap into it directly? Naruto asked, opening his eyes. Emotion, Goku suggested, joining the conversation. For Saiyans, power often comes from intense feelings. Anger, determination, the need to protect. They all fuel our transformations. Transformations, Naruto repeated, remembering Whis' earlier mention of Super Saiyans. The hallmark of our race, Vegeta stated with unmistakable pride. He widened his stance, fists clenched at his sides. Observe. With a guttural cry, Vegeta's aura erupted into golden flame. His black hair shifted to brilliant yellow, standing even more rigidly upward. His dark eyes transformed to teal. Most striking, however, was the palpable pressure of his ki, multiplied many times over in an instant. This is a Super Saiyan, Vegeta declared, his voice carrying a metallic echo from the energy surrounding him. The legendary transformation of our people, once achieved only once a millennium, now the baseline of Saiyan power. Naruto stared, awestruck. The transformation wasn't just visual. Vegeta's entire energy signature had changed, becoming sharper, more refined, more potent. Through his sage senses, Naruto could feel raw power radiating from the Saiyan Prince, dwarfing what he'd displayed earlier. And that's just the beginning, Goku added cheerfully. He stepped forward, his own energy building. There's Super Saiyan 2. With a flash, Goku's hair spiked upward, crackling with bioelectrical energy that arced between the golden strands. His power level jumped dramatically, matching and then surpassing Vegeta's. Super Saiyan 3, another transformation, more dramatic than the last. Goku's hair lengthened tremendously, flowing down his back like a golden mane. His eyebrows disappeared, his forehead becoming more pronounced. The energy output was staggering, like comparing a bonfire to a volcanic eruption. And then there's this, Goku continued, powering down suddenly to his base form. He closed his eyes, concentrating. When they opened again, his black hair had turned bright blue, an ethereal aura of similar color surrounding him. Super Saiyan God, and beyond that, Super Saiyan Blue, Combi. Ning God Ki with the Super Saiyan transformation. The pressure in the room changed qualitatively, becoming thinner somehow, as though the very air was being refined by proximity to divine energy. Naruto's sage senses detected a fundamental difference in this form. Goku's ki had transcended normal physical limits, entering a realm that resonated with natural energy on a higher harmonic. This is what I could become? Naruto asked, voice barely above a whisper. Potentially, Whis qualified, stepping closer. Though your unique energy composition might result in different manifestations, the interaction between Saiyan ki, your chakra system, and natural energy creates variables even I cannot fully predict. Vegeta powered down, returning to his base form. The question is whether you can access your Saiyan heritage at all, after being separated from it for so long. The first transformation is always the hardest. It requires a trigger, an emotional catalyst of sufficient intensity. Goku added with unusual seriousness. For me, it was the need to avenge Krillin, to stop Frieza. The need was so great that it broke through whatever mental blocks were preventing the transformation. Naruto thought of his own emotional catalysts, the times when desperation had pushed him to access new levels of power. Facing pain to protect the village. Confronting Obito to save his friends. Always, his breakthroughs came from the need to protect others, not himself. I understand the concept, he said slowly. But I can't just manufacture that kind of emotional intensity. Perhaps not, Whis agreed. Though I suspect the opportunity will present itself naturally, given the cosmic disruptions your arrival has set in motion. Before anyone could question this cryptic statement, the chamber door slid open, revealing Bulma with Hinata beside her. Both women carried digital tablets displaying complex data streams. Sorry to interrupt testosterone theater, Bulma announced, but you'll want to see this. We've been analyzing Naruto's genetic structure and energy signature, and the results are, well, unprecedented, barely covers it. She approached the central console, connecting her tablet to display its contents on the larger screen. Complex genetic sequences appeared, portions highlighted in various colors. This is a standard Saiyan genetic profile, Bulma explained, pointing to a comparison chart. And this is Naruto's. The Saiyan markers are present but modified, as though they've been adapting to a different set of universal constants for his entire life. Which they have, Whis confirmed. The pocket dimension's unique properties would have influenced his development from infancy. But here's where it gets weird, Bulma continued, swiping to a new display. There's a secondary energy system overlaid on his key pathways, the chakra network Hinata described. They're not separate systems, they're integrated, feeding into and enhancing each other. Hinata stepped forward, her Byakugan activated. I can see it clearly now. Naruto-kun's chakra pathways and key channels have begun synchronizing since our arrival in this dimension. The natural energy he draws in through Sage mode acts as a bridge between the two systems. A three-component energy matrix, Whis mused, stroking his chin. Ki for raw power, chakra for manipulation and control, natural energy for harmonization and enhancement. Fascinating. Theory is all well and good, Vegeta interjected impatiently, but the practical application is what matters. Can the boy harness Saiyan power or not? I believe so, Hinata answered before anyone else could. But it won't manifest exactly like yours. Naruto-kun's power has always been unique, combining his own strength with Kurama's chakra and natural energy. His Saiyan abilities will likely follow the same pattern of integration rather than separation. Naruto felt a rush of gratitude for Hinata's understanding. While he others saw him as a scientific curiosity or potential warrior, she saw him as he was, a complex whole rather than separate components. So what now? He asked, looking between Vegeta, Goku, and Whis. How do I train to access this power? Quote, Goku's face lit up with childlike enthusiasm. The best way to get stronger is to fight strong opponents. We should. Not everything requires punching, Kakarot, Vegeta interrupted. The boy needs to understand the fundamental nature of ki before attempting to transform it. Actually, Whis interjected smoothly, I believe a dual approach would be most effective. Technical understanding combined with practical application. He turned to Naruto. Your shadow clone technique provides a unique training opportunity. You could simultaneously study ki theory and engage in combat practice. Naruto brightened at the suggestion. That's how I've trained before. My clones can learn different things, and when they dispel, I get all their experiences at once. An extraordinarily efficient method, Whis nodded approvingly. Vegeta can handle the theoretical instruction. His understanding of key fundamentals is quite thorough, despite his preference for practical application. Vegeta crossed his arms, looking simultaneously annoyed and pleased by the compliment. Meanwhile, Whis continued, Goku can assist with combat training. His intuitive app, Roach, complements your own learning style. And what about me? Hinata asked quietly. Ah, Lady Hyuga, Whis turned to her with a gentle smile. Your Byakugan's ability to perceive energy systems makes you uniquely qualified to monitor Naruto's progress. Additionally, Bulma has expressed interest in helping you explore the potential evolution of your visual abilities in this universe. Bulma nodded enthusiastically. The quantum resonance patterns in your ocular chakra network are incredible. With some targeted stimulation, we might be able to expand your perception range exponentially. That settles it then, Whis declared. We shall remain on Earth for approximately 1 week, local time, before Lord Beerus requires my presence again. By then, we should have a better understanding of young Naruto's potential and limitations. As the others discussed training schedules and equipment requirements, Naruto felt a subtle shift in the atmospheric pressure. A familiar sensation, the arrival of a powerful being, though the energy signature was different from any he'd encountered so far. The gravity chamber's door slid open without warning, revealing the tall, elegant form of Vados. Unlike her previous appearance, where curiosity had been her dominant expression, now she appeared mildly concerned. Brother, she addressed Whis directly, ignoring the startled reactions of the others. We have a situation developing in Universe 6 that may pertain to our young interdimensional travelers. Whis's perpetual smile dimmed slightly. So soon? I'd hoped for at least a few days of uninterrupted assessment. Unfortunately, the cosmos rarely accommodates our preferred schedules, Vados replied dryly. She turned her attention to Naruto, studying him with renewed interest. Your rival has created more ripples than anticipated. Dimensional echoes are appearing throughout Universe 6, particularly near planet Sadala. Sadala. Vegeta stepped forward, his expression intensifying. That planet was destroyed in our universe centuries ago. In Universe 7, yes, Vados confirmed. In Universe 6, it remains the Saiyan homeworld, a civilization that evolved along a very different path from your own. A planet of Saiyans, Naruto murmured, the concept simultaneously thrilling and intimidating. A whole world of people like me. Not exactly like you, Vados corrected. Earth 6 Saiyans never developed the mercenary culture that characterized their Universe 7 counterparts. They became peacekeepers rather than conquerors. Peacekeepers, Vegeta scoffed. Saiyans. Evolution takes many paths across the multiverse, Prince Vegeta, Vados replied with subtle reproof. In any case, the dimensional disturbances surrounding planet Sadala require investigation. Lord Cha, MPA has specifically requested, her lips quirked in what might have been amusement, that our Saiyan anomaly be present for this investigation. Requested or demanded? Whis asked his sister, one elegant eyebrow raised. Let's say he expressed his preference with his usual subtle diplomacy, Vados answered, the siblings sharing a knowing look. Naruto glanced at Hinata, their eyes meeting in silent communication. The prospect of traveling to another universe, to a planet of Saiyans, was equal parts tempting and terrifying. Yet if these dimensional disturbances were connected to their arrival, they had a responsibility to help address them. I'll go, Naruto decided, turning back to Vados. If these problems are happening because of us, I want to help fix them. I'm coming too, Hinata stated firmly, moving to stand beside him. Her tone left no room for argument. Of course, Vados nodded, as though she had expected nothing less. Your visual abilities may prove quite useful in perceiving the dimensional anomalies. Hold on, Vegeta interjected. If there's a planet of Saiyans involved, I'm not being left behind. Me neither, Goku added enthusiastically. I've always wanted to see the Universe 6 Saiyans again. Especially Caulifla, she has amazing potential. Vados turned to her brother with an expression of resigned amusement. I suppose Lord Champa won't object to additional Saiyans, provided they behave themselves. Her pointed gaze at Vegeta made it clear who she considered the greater diplomatic risk. Very well, Whis agreed. Though perhaps we should limit the expedition to just the Saiyans and Lady Hyuga. Too large a group might complicate matters unnecessarily. Agreed, Vados nodded. And we should depart promptly. The dimensional echoes appear to be intensifying. Wait, Naruto said, suddenly realizing something. If we're going to another universe, will that affect our chances of getting back to our own dimension? Back to our friends. Whis and Vados exchanged a look that Naruto couldn't quite interpret. Interuniversal travel does not inherently complicate interdimensional return journeys, Whis assured him after a moment. In fact, studying these echoes may provide valuable data for eventually establishing a stable pathway back to your pocket dimension. Though not entirely convinced, Naruto nodded his acceptance. Whatever was happening, standing still wouldn't solve anything. Action, movement, engagement with the problem, these were the approaches he understood best. How soon do we leave? He asked Vados. Immediately would be preferable, she replied. Though perhaps a change of attire would be advisable first. She gestured to Naruto and Hinata's battle-worn clothing, still bearing the damages from their fight with Kagaya. Bulma stepped forward. I can help with that. Come with me. We have combat suits that should fit you both, designed to withstand the kind of punishment you Saiyans tend to attract. 30 minutes later, Naruto examined his reflection in a full-length mirror. He wore a modified Saiyan combat suit, similar to Vegeta's in design but colored primarily orange with black accents. The stretch fabric conformed perfectly to his body while allowing complete freedom of movement. Flexible armor panels protected vital areas without restricting mobility. How do you like it? Bulma asked, making final adjustments to the fit around his shoulders. I've been improving the design for years based on combat data from these muscle heads. This version is 200% more durable than what Vegeta wore on Namek. With only 40% of the weight. It's amazing, Naruto admitted, throwing a few experimental punches and kicks. Lighter than it looks, but I can feel the protection. The material adapts to your body temperature and energy output, Bulma explained with justified pride. It'll expand if you transform, so no wardrobe malfunctions in the middle of battle. Across the room, Hinata emerged from a changing area wearing a similar outfit, though hers featured lavender accents instead of orange. The form-fitting design highlighted her athletic figure in ways that momentarily distracted Naruto from their impending journey. Is it too tight? She asked self-consciously, noticing his stare. No, I mean, it looks great. Practical. For fighting and stuff, Naruto stammered, earning an amused look from Bulma. The material is surprisingly comfortable, Hinata said, moving through a series of gentle fist stances to test the suit's flexibility. And it doesn't interfere with chakra flow at all. Of course not, Bulma replied. I designed these specifically to work with energy manipulation. The fabric actually helps channel and focus power rather than blocking it. A knock at door proceeded with poking his head into the room. Are our interdimensional travelers suitably attired? Vados is growing impatient, and an impatient angel is something the multiverse generally prefers to avoid. We're ready, Naruto confirmed, fastening the last piece of armor into place. He turned to Bulma. Thank you for everything. The equipment, the analysis, all of it. Just come back in one piece, Bulma replied with a wink. And bring me data on those dimensional echoes. Scientific discoveries are better than souvenirs any day. In the Capsule Corp courtyard, they found Vados waiting beside her staff, which floated vertically without support. Goku and Vegeta had already changed into fresh combat gear and stood nearby, the former bouncing on his toes with barely contained excitement. The latter maintaining his usual stoic demeanor. Finally, Vados remarked as they approached. I was beginning to wonder if you'd decided to redecorate the entire facility before departing. Fashion takes time, sister. Whis replied lightly, particularly when preparing for potential combat situations. Vados merely raised an eyebrow before addressing the group. Our journey to Universe, say 6 will take approximately 72 seconds through the intergalactic medium. Please maintain physical contact with either myself or my brother throughout transit. What happens if we don't? Naruto asked, curious. Your molecular structure would be dispersed across roughly 17 dimensions, Vados answered matter-of-factly. Quite irretrievably, I'm afraid. So, don't let go. Got it, Naruto mumbled. Moving closer to the angel, they arranged themselves in a circle around Vados and Whis, each placing a hand on one of the angel's shoulders. With a tap of her staff, Vados create a crystalline cube similar to Whis' transportation method. The earth disappeared around them, replaced by streaking light as they accelerated to speeds beyond comprehension. Unlike their journey to Earth, this transit involved passing through what appeared to be a membrane of swirling cosmic energy, the boundary between universes. Naruto felt a momentary resistance, as though reality itself objected to their passage. Before they burst through into space that looked similar yet subtly different from Universe 7. "Welcome to Universe 6, Vados announced as the cube decelerated. Home to the most ambitious culinary critics, the most meticulous destroyer god, and of course, the Saiyan race that never fell to tyranny. Below them floated a planet that superficially resembled Earth, blue oceans, green and brown landmasses, white cloud systems, but with geographic configurations Naruto didn't recognize. 2 moons orbited the planet, one significantly larger than the other. "Planet Sadala," Vegeta murmured, his usual gruff demeanor softened by what might have been nostalgia for a homeworld he had never known. So this is what might have been. The dimensional echoes are concentrated in the northern hemisphere, Vados reported, consulting her staff's floating orb. Specifically, around the capital city and central training facilities. "Are they dangerous?" Hinata asked, activating her Byakugan to study the planet below. "I can see ripples in the fabric of space, like aftershocks from our arrival." Astute observation, Vados nodded approvingly. "They pose no immediate threat, but left unaddressed, they could potentially weaken the barriers between dimensions. Hence our proactive investigation." The cube descended through Sadala's atmosphere, revealing a landscape of advanced architecture blended harmoniously with natural formations. The city below resembled neither the rustic shinobi villages Naruto knew nor the technological metropolises of Earth. Instead, it toured elegant spires and sweeping structures that incorporated living plants and natural energy flows into their design. "Pretty," Goku commented with his usual simplicity. "Doesn't look like a warrior culture built it." The Universe 6 Saiyans evolved beyond the purely martial focus of their Universe 7 counterparts, Whis explained. They channel their natural combative instincts into protective roles, defending weaker species, maintaining order, occasionally engaging in sanctioned tournaments to satisfy their competitive drives. "Sounds boring," Vegeta muttered, though his intent observer Chion of the city below belied his dismissive tone. The cube touched down in what appeared to be a designated landing area, a circular platform surrounded by gardens and administrative buildings. A small delegation waited for them, including several individuals whose energy signatures marked them unmistakably as Saiyans, despite their lack of tails. As the cube dissolved around them, Naruto found himself face to face with Universe 6 Saiyans for the first time. Their leader stepped forward, a tall, muscular man with a short beard and the characteristic black hair of the race, though styled in a more controlled fashion than the wild spikes Naruto, Goku, and Vegeta sported. "Angel Vados," the man greeted with a formal bow. "We received word of your arrival. I am Renso, commander of the Sadala Defense Forces." His eyes swept over the visitors, lingering on Naruto with obvious curiosity. "These are the interdimensional travelers." "Indeed," Vados confirmed. Naruto Uzumaki, originally of Universe 7. Raised in a pocket dimension with unique properties. And Hinata Hyuga, a human from the same dimension with specialized visual abilities. Renso studied Naruto with professional assessment. "Your energy signature is unusual, Saiyan, yet not entirely. Something else mingles with it." "Chakra," Naruto explained, growing accustomed to this observation. "Where I come from, we manipulate energy differently." "Fascinating." Renso nodded. "Our scientists have been monitoring the dimensional disturbances since they began. They believe your unique energy composition may be the key to stabilizing them." "How so?" Whis inquired, genuine interest in his tone. "Perhaps it would be best if you spoke with them directly," Renso suggested. "They've established a research facility near the most active echo point." A commotion from one of the nearby buildings interrupted their conversation. The doors burst open, and a young female Saiyan with spiky black hair tied in a wild ponytail stormed out, radiating irritation. "Brother," she called to Renso, "you promised I could meet the dimensional She stopped abruptly as she caught sight of Goku, her expression shifting to competitive excitement. Kakarot, you're here too. Perfect. I've been training for a rematch. Caulifla. Goku greeted cheerfully. Hey, you look stronger. Wanna fight? Not now. Caulifla. Renzo cut in the weary tone of someone accustomed to managing his sister's enthusiasm. The dimensional situation takes priority over your rivalry. Caulifla barely seemed to register her brother's admonishment, her attention already shifting to Naruto. She approached him with direct curiosity, circling him much as Vegeta had done earlier. So you're the anomaly everyone's talking about, she said, stopping directly in front of him. Hands on her hips. You don't look that special. Sorry to disappoint, Naruto replied with a slight smirk, finding her brashness oddly refreshing after the formal exchanges with Renzo. HMPH, can you fight? She demanded. I manage, Naruto answered, matching her challenging tone. He's being modest, Hinata interjected quietly. Naruto-kun is one of the strongest warriors in our dimension. Caulifla's eyes lit with interest. Is that right? Well, once this dimensional whatever is sorted out, you and I are definitely sparring. It wasn't a request. Looking forward to it, Naruto replied, surprised to realize he meant it. Something about Caulifla's straightforward competitive spirit resonated with him. If we could proceed to the research facility, Vados suggested with polite insistence. Lord Champa will be expecting a progress report before dinner. A late report means a late dinner, which means an irritable god of destruction. Whis finished for her. Yes, let's not repeat the Nebula 42 incident. Renzo nodded quickly. Of course. Transport is ready. This way, please. As they followed the Saiyan commander toward what appeared to be a hovering vehicle platform. Naruto noticed another female Saiyan watching from the shadows of a nearby building. Unlike Caulifla's confident stance, this girl seemed almost shy, though Naruto's senses detected considerable power carefully contained within her slender frame. Kale, Caulifla called out, noticing her friend's hesitation. Come on, don't you want to meet the dimensional visitors? He girl. Kale stepped forward reluctantly, her eyes downcast. Hello, she managed, bowing slightly. This is my protege, Kale, Caulifla announced proudly, slinging an arm around the quiet girl's shoulders. Don't let the timid act fool you, she's got more raw power than anyone on Sadala. Kale blushed at the praise, her eyes briefly meeting Naruto's before darting away again. In that fleeting contact, Naruto sensed something familiar, the burden of containing power that others feared, the struggle for control that he had faced with Kurama for so many years. Nice to meet you, Kale, he said gently, offering a warm smile rather than the challenging grin he'd given Caulifla. I'm Naruto, the one causing the dimensional problems, she murmured, then immediately looked horrified at her own words. I mean, not that it's your fault, I didn't mean. It's okay, Naruto laughed, finding her flustered response endearing. I guess I am the problem, in a way. But hopefully I can be part of the solution too. Something in his easy acceptance seemed to relax her slightly. She nodded, a ghost of a smile touching her lips before Caulifla dragged her toward the transport platform, Alrea. Dai chattering about training plans and potential sparring matches. Interesting dynamics, Whis commented quietly to Naruto as they boarded the hovering platform. Caulifla possesses tremendous potential but lacks discipline. Kale has even greater raw power but is constrained by fear of that power. Reminds me of myself and Sasuke, in a way, Naruto mused. Different kinds of struggle with similar underlying issues. The transport platform rose smoothly into the air once everyone was aboard, accelerating toward the northern horizon. As they traveled, Renzo explained that the dimensional hose had begun approximately 12 hours after Naruto and Hinata's arrival in Universe 7. Manifesting as localized distortions in space-time. Our scientists believe your unique energy signature created a resonance pattern. He elaborated. Your chakra system apparently vibrates at a frequency that interacts with the boundaries between dimensions. So my existence here is basically poking holes in reality. Naruto asked, concerned. Not exactly, Renzo clarified. More like creating ripples. The echoes are harmless in themselves, but they provide valuable data about interdimensional mechanics. Potentially even a way to stabilize pathways between dimensions. Like a way back to our world, Hinata realized, hope brightening her features. Theoretically, yes, Renzo nodded. Those CH applications would require precise control and understanding of the underlying principles. The transport crested a mountain range, revealing a vast valley below. At its center stood a complex of dome-shaped buildings surrounding what appeared to be a perfectly circular lake, except the water moved in impossible patterns, sometimes flowing upward against gravity before splashing back down. The primary echo point, Renzo explained, gesturing toward the strange lake. What you're seeing isn't actually water, but a visual manifestation of dimensional membrane fluctuations. As they descended toward the research complex, Naruto felt a strange tugging sensation deep within his core, as though something about this place recognized and called to him. The feeling intensified as they landed, becoming almost uncomfortable. You feel it too? Hinata asked quietly, noting his expression. Yeah, like it's pulling on my chakra somehow. Your chakra, your ki, and the natural energy you manipulate in sage mode, Vados corrected. Overhearing their exchange, all three components of your energy system are responding to the dimensional resonance. They disembarked from the transport platform, led by Renzo toward the largest of the research domes. Inside, they found a bustling laboratory filled with equipment Naruto couldn't begin to identify. Saiyan scientists in form-fitting uniforms moved purposefully between workstations, many pausing to stare at the new arrivals. A female Saiyan with short, practical hair and intelligent eyes approached them. Unlike most of her race, she wore lasses, a detail that struck Naruto as incongruous given the Saiyan's legendary physical perfection. Commander Renzo, she greeted professionally. These are the subjects. Dr. Korn. Yes, Renzo confirmed. Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga from the interdimensional pocket, along with Kakarot and Prince Vegeta from Universe 7. Dr. Korn's focus immediately zeroed in on Naruto, her gaze analytical rather than curious. Fascinating. Your energy signature precisely matches the harmonic pattern of the echoes. She gestured to a nearby display showing wave-like patterns. See these oscillations. Hair in perfect synchronization with the fluctuations in your bioenergy field. Is that bad? Naruto asked. On the contrary, drive. Korn replied. It provides us with a control variable for our stabilization experiments. With your permission, we'd like to run some tests. Nothing invasive, merely monitoring how your energy responds to proximity with the echo point. Naruto glanced at Hinata, who gave a small nod of encouragement. All right, what do you need me to do? For initial readings, simply approach the central observation platform overlooking the dimensional pool. Our instruments will do the rest. As they moved deeper into the facility, the tugging sensation in Naruto's core intensified. By the time they reached the observation platform, a circular structure extending over the strange water of the dimensional pool, the feeling had become a persistent pressure, as though something was trying to pull his chakra out through his skin. Naruto-kun, your chakra network is responding to the dimensional energy. Hinata reported, her Byakugan active. It's reaching out, somehow, creating filaments that connect to the distortion below. Dr. Korn, monitoring readings from a complex array of instruments, made sounds of scientific excitement. Extraordinary. The subject's energy system is attempting to harmonize with the dimensional frequency. This confirms our resonance theory. In simpler terms, Dr. Vegeta demanded impatiently. His body recognizes the dimensional pathway, drive. Korn explained without looking up from her instruments. It's trying to connect with it, perhaps even stabilize it. If we can understand and control this process, we could potentially create stable interdimensional gateways. Like a way back to our friends, Naruto said, the implications hitting him fully. Precisely, drive, Korn confirmed, though it would require learning to consciously direct this resonance ability rather than letting it happen passively. Goku, hoo-ha, D-Bin uncharacteristically quiet during the scientific explanations, suddenly straightened. Something's coming through, he announced, his casual demeanor shifting to alert readiness. Below them, dimensional pool began swirling more violently, its center darkening to a deep purple vortex. The pressure in Naruto's chakra network spiked painfully, causing him to double over. Naruto-kun, Hinata moved to support him, her Byakugan revealing the cause of his distress. His chakra is being drawn toward the vortex, like it's being siphoned. Dr. Korn's instruments erupted with alarms. Dimensional integrity collapsing. Something's forcing its way through from the pocket dimension. Caulifla and Kale moved to the edge of the platform, energy flaring around their hands in preparation for whatever might emerge. Vegeta and Goku took defensive positions, their casual attitudes replaced by the focus of experienced warriors. Hinata, Naruto gasped through the pain, can you see what's coming through? She focused her Byakugan on the swirling vortex, pushing her vision to its limits. It's humanoid, tall, white, with horns and, she paled suddenly. Rinne Sharingan, it's an Otsutsuki. The name sent a chill through Naruto. The Otsutsuki clan, Kagaya's people, interdimensional travelers who harvested worlds for their chakra. If they had found a way to follow them here. Everyone back, Whis commanded with unexpected authority. This is a hostile interdimensional entity with chakra absorption capabilities. The warning came just as the vortex erupted upward, a pillar of purple energy from which emerged a slender white figure with two horns protruding from its head. Its face bore the distinctive features of the Otsutsuki clan, pale skin, white hair, and most concerning, a Rinne Sharingan on its forehead. At last, the figure spoke, its voice echoing with unnatural resonance. The dimensional beacon. The anomaly that bridges worlds. Its gaze fixed on Naruto. You will be the key to our expansion beyond the limited confines of the shinobi dimension. Who are you? Naruto demanded, fighting through the pain of his chakra being pulled toward the entity. I am Momoshiki Otsutsuki, the figure replied with casual arrogance. And you, hybrid creature, will serve as our gateway to these chakra-rich universes. Vegeta stepped forward, unimpressed by the dramatic entrance. I don't know what a Rinne Sharingan is, but if you're threatening this universe, you're dealing with me first. His aura flared golden as he transformed into a Super Saiyan without apparent effort. Momoshiki regarded Vegeta with mild curiosity. Interesting energy. Primitive, but potent. Perhaps worth harvesting before I complete my mission. He raised his hand, and to everyone's shock, a small Rinnegan appeared in his palm. The eye fixed on Vegeta, and suddenly the Saiyan Prince's golden aura was being drawn from his body, siphoned toward Momoshiki's palm. What the? Veg. Ta struggled against the unexpected attack, his transformation flickering as his ki was forcibly extracted. He's absorbing energy, Hinata warned. Just like the Preta path of the Rinnegan. Goku launched forward without hesitation, aiming a powerful kick at Momoshiki's head. The Otsutsuki simply raised his other hand, absorbing the kinetic energy of the attack and redirecting it back at Goku with amplified force. The Saiyan was sent flying backward, crashing through the observation platform's railing. Conventional attacks won't work, Whis observed calmly, though his stance had shifted subtly to one of readiness. He absorbs energy and reflects physical force. Through the pain of his draining chakra, Naruto forced himself to think. The Preta path could absorb chakra, but it had weaknesses. If overloaded, or if fed energy it couldn't process. Sage mode, he gasped, reaching for the natural energy around him. Natural energy, he might not be able to handle it. As Momoshiki continued draining Vegeta's Super Saiyan energy, Naruto forced himself to his feet, drawing natural energy into his system despite the pain. Orange pigmentation appeared around his eyes as Sage mode activated. The influx of natural energy temporarily counteracting the siphoning effect. What is this? Momoshiki's confident expression faltered slightly as his Rinnegan struggled to process the natural energy Naruto was now channeling. This energy, it resists absorption. That's right, Naruto confirmed, finding his strength returning as Sage mode fully activated. Natural energy isn't so side to steal, especially if you don't know how to balance it. He formed a familiar hand sign, and despite the strain, created 5 shadow clones. Each clone immediately began gathering natural energy, amplifying the total amount Naruto could channel. Momoshiki, sensing the threat, redirected his absorption toward Naruto, attempting to drain the natural energy directly. This proved to be a mistake. As the Rinnegan in his palm connected with Naruto's Sage Chakra, Momoshiki's arm began to stiffen, taking on a stone-like appearance. What is happening? The Otsutsuki demanded, genuine alarm in his voice for the first time. Natural energy overload, Naruto explained through gritted teeth, pushing more Sage Chakra toward the connection. Without proper training, it turns you to stone. How's that working out for you? Momoshiki snarled, severing the connection by literally cutting off his petrifying arm with a chakra blade from his remaining hand. The detached limb fell into the dimensional pool, dissolving into particles of light. Clever, hybrid, Momoshiki acknowledged, floating back toward the vortex. But this is merely a projection of my true form, a scout sent to confirm your presence. We will meet again, when I come in my full power to claim you as the key to our expansion. Before anyone could stop him, Momoshiki retreated into the dimensional vortex, which collapsed behind him with a thunderous implosion. The strange water of the pool settled back into its regular patterns, though noticeably more agitated than before. Silence fell over the observation platform. Everyone processed what had just happened. Vegeta, recovering from having his energy drained, looked particularly outraged. Goku, despite being thrown through a railing, seemed more excited than concerned. Man, that guy was strong, he exclaimed, dusting himself off. And those eye abilities are wild. I've never seen anything like it. That was an Otsutsuki, Naruto explained, his sage mode fading as the immediate danger passed. They're interdimensional chakra harvesters from our world. Kagaya, the one we were fighting when we got pulled here, she's one of them. They consume the life energy of entire planets. Hinata added softly, they've destroyed countless civilizations in our dimension. This sobered even Goku momentarily. Vegeta, fully recovered, approached Naruto with newfound interest. Your natural energy technique, he observed. It countered his absorption ability. A tactical application rather than mere power. Perhaps there's more to your fighting style than I initially assumed. Coming from Vegeta, this was high praise indeed. Dr. Korn, who had been frantically recording data throughout the encounter, finally looked up from her instruments. This changes everything. The interdimensional breach wasn't just an echo, it was a pathway, one that can apparently be traversed by beings from your dimension. Which means they could potentially follow you to any universe, Whis concluded thoughtfully. Most concerning, but also an opportunity, Vados added, exchanging a meaningful look with her brother. If pathways can be established between dimensions, they can also be sealed permanently, if necessary. The implications hung heavy in the air. Sealing the pathways would protect the 12 universes from Otsutsuki invasion, but it would also cut off Y chance of Naruto and Hinata returning to their home dimension. There must be another solution, Hinata said firmly, reading the unspoken conclusion in the Angel's exchange. One that allows for controlled transit without leaving the dimensions vulnerable. Perhaps, Vados conceded, though such a solution would require mastery of interdimensional energy mechanics beyond what most beings can achieve. Most beings, Whis emphasized, giving his sister a pointed look, but perhaps not all. Particularly not those with unique energy compositions. All eyes turned to Naruto, who was suddenly uncomfortably aware of the weight of expectation settling on his shoulders. Not for the first time in his life, he found himself cast in the role of potential savior, though the scale had expanded dramatically from village to multiverse. So I need to learn to control this resonance thing, he summarized, looking from Whis to Vados to Dr. Korn, to create stable pathways that only we can use, and keep the Otsutsuki out. Essentially, yes, drive. Korn confirmed, though the process would be extraordinarily complex, requiring precise control over all three of your energy systems simultaneously. In other words, Caulifla interjected from where she stood with Kale, you need to get a lot stronger, a lot faster. Her eyes gleamed with competitive fire. Looks like that sparring match Zhu Qi became training for saving the multiverse. Kale, who had been quiet throughout the encounter, spoke up softly. If the dimensional energy responds to his unique signature, wouldn't he need to develop a new form? One that fully integrates all his power types. Everyone looked at the shy Saiyan in surprise, causing her to blush and look down. But Whis nodded thoughtfully, an astute observation, not merely increased strength, but a qualitative transformation, a new state of being that harmonizes Saiyan Ki, Shinobi Chakra, and natural energy into a single, coherent system. Like some kind of ultimate Sage Saiyan form, Goku suggested, his face lighting up at the concept of a new transformation to aspire to. Ultra Sage Instinct, Vados corrected smoothly. A state where all energy. Y systems function autonomously in perfect harmony, guided by instinct rather than conscious control. The name resonated within Naruto, triggering something deep in his cellular memory, a potential that had always existed within him. Waiting for the right catalyst to awaken. Ultra Sage Instinct, he repeated, the words feeling right on his tongue. But how do I achieve something like that? It sounds like it would take years of training. Under normal circumstances, yes, Whis agreed. However, the multiverse rarely affords us the luxury of normal circumstances. We must accelerate your development through alternative methods. Quote, the Tournament of Power, Vados suggested, her eyes meeting her brother's in silent communication. Lord Zeno's battle royale between universes. A crucible of combat that forces growth through necessity. That's not for another 3 months, Whis pointed out. Perhaps it could be rescheduled, Vados replied meaningfully. Given the interdimensional threat, I believe even the Grand Priest might see the value in accelerating matters. As the angels discussed cosmic politics, Naruto found himself gazing down at the dimensional pool, its swirling patterns somehow reflecting the turbulence in his own thoughts. In mere days, his understanding of himself and reality had been completely upended. He was no longer simply Naruto Uzumaki, shinobi of the hidden leaf. He was a Saiyan with latent powers beyond imagination, a dimensional anomaly with the potential to either save or endanger multiple universes, and apparently the key to a new form of energy manipulation that even the angels found noteworthy. Overwhelming, isn't it? Hinata's gentle voice broke through his thoughts as she joined him at the railing. Finding out you're part of Som. Things so much bigger than you ever imagined. Naruto nodded, grateful for her perceptiveness. It's like when I first learned about the 9 tails, but multiplied by 1,000. Back then, I just wanted to be acknowledged by the village. Now universes are watching, she finished for him. But you're still you, Naruto-kun. That hasn't changed. Your heart, your determination, your way of never giving up. Those are constants across any dimension. Her words steadied him, as they always did. Whatever cosmic role he was being groomed for, whatever powers he might develop, Hinata's unwavering faith remained his anchor. We'll figure this out, he promised, as much to himself as to her. Find a way to protect these universes and get back to our friends. Together, Hinata smiled, her lavender eyes reflecting the strange light of the dimensional pool. Together, she agreed. Behind them, the others continued debating training methods, tournament strategies, and interdimensional mechanics. But for a moment, Naruto allowed himself to focus solely on Hinata's presence beside him, a reminder of home, of purpose, of the bonds worth fighting for across any number of universes. The challenges ahead were daunting. The powers at play beyond comprehension, but Naruto had never backed down from impossible odds before. If mastering this Ultra Sage Instinct was what it would take to protect both his old world and these new ones, then that was exactly what he would do. As if responding to his resolve, something shifted in his core, a brief harmonization of chakra, ki, and natural energy that sent a golden-orange glow rippling across his skin for just an instant before fading. No one else noticed the momentary manifestation, but Naruto felt it, a glimpse of potential, a preview of power waiting to be unlocked. The path forward was clear, if not easy. Train, grow, transform, and in doing so, perhaps bridge worlds that were never meant to touch. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Pride of Universe 6. Planet Sadala's twin suns crested the eastern mountain range, painting the dawn sky in shades of amber and violet unseen on Earth. Naruto stood alone on a cliffside overlook, his eyes closed, focusing on the cacophony of sensations flooding his awareness. The gravitational pull here measured 1.3 times Earth's standard, subtle yet persistent. The atmosphere carried traces of mineral that tickled his enhanced Saiyan olfactory senses. Most significantly, the ambient energy of this world hummed at a frequency that resonated with something primal within him, as though planet Sadala recognized the Saiyan blood flowing through his veins despite his interdimensional upbringing. 3 weeks had passed since their arrival in Universe 6. 3 weeks of rigorous training, scientific examination, and gradual adaptation to a world both foreign and strangely familiar. Naruto inhaled deeply, drawing natural energy into his system as he'd done countless times before. Yet here, the process felt different, smoother, more intuitive. Sage mode activated with barely a thought, orange pigmentation appearing around his eyes, his perception expanding exponentially. Good, came Vados's melodic voice from behind him. Your ability to gather natural energy has improved considerably. The assimilation time has decreased by 68% since our first session. Naruto opened his eyes but maintained his meditative posture. It's easier here. Like the natural energy is more compatible somehow. An astute observation. Vados glided forward to stand beside him, her staff hovering vertically at her shoulder. Universe 6's fundamental frequency aligns more closely with your chakra network than Universe 7's. A fortuitous coincidence, or perhaps not coincidence at all. 3 weeks of training under the angel's tutelage had taught Naruto to recognize when she was hinting at something without directly stating it. You think I was meant to come here? That this isn't just some cosmic accident? A mysterious smile curved Vados's lips. The multiverse rarely deals in true accidents, Naruto Uzumaki. Coincidences, when examined closely, often reveal themselves as convergences of probability. Threads of causality woven by forces beyond mortal comprehension. You could just say, yes, or, no, Naruto replied dryly, earning a melodic chuckle from the angel. Where would be the educational value in that? Vados countered, her eyes twinkling with subtle mirth. In any case, your integration of natural energy with Saiyan Ki continues to progress admirably. The question remains whether you can maintain this integration during high-intensity combat situations. Naruto stood, stretching muscles sore from the previous day's training. That's what today's session with Caulifla and Kale is for, right? Combat testing. Indeed. Vados tapped her staff once against the rocky ground, creating a shimmering display of chronometric symbols. They should arrive in approximately 17 minutes. Sufficient time for you to complete your morning meditation sequence. Naruto nodded, resuming his seated position on the cliff edge. These dawn meditation sessions with Vados had become a daily ritual, one he initially approached with skepticism but had grown to value deeply. The angel's guidance, though often cryptic and occasionally frustrating, had accelerated his understanding of the complex interplay between chakra, ki, and natural energy. Before they arrive, Vados said, interrupting his thoughts, there is a matter I wished to discuss privately. Something in her tone, a BTLE shift from instructional to confidential, caught Naruto's attention. What is it? The dimensional disturbances have increased in frequency, she stated, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Dr. Korn's team recorded 17 distinct echo events yesterday alone, nearly triple the previous daily maximum. A cold knot formed in Naruto's stomach. Momoshiki. He's preparing something, so it would appear. Vados waved her staff, conjuring a 3-dimensional representation of planet Sadala surrounded by rippling waves of energy. The echoes follow a distinct pattern, progressively weakening dimensional barriers around specific coordinates. He's creating entry points, Naruto realized, studying the visualization. Planning a coordinated invasion rather than a single breach. Precisely. Vados dismissed the image with another wave of her staff, which necessitates an acceleration of your training regimen. The Tournament of Power has been officially rescheduled. It will commence in 17 days. 17 days. Naruto stood abruptly. That's not much time to master an entirely new form of energy manipulation. Hence my concern, Vados acknowledged. While your progress has been remarkable by mortal standards, the development of Ultra Sage instinct would typically require months, if not years, of dedicated training. Naruto paced along the cliff edge, mind racing. There has to be a way to accelerate the process. A shortcut or a catalyst. There is one possibility, Vados said carefully. Though it carries significant risk. Something in her tone made Naruto pause. In 3 weeks of training, he'd never heard the angel express concern about risk. She typically approached danger with the detached interest of an immortal being to whom mortal peril was an abstract concept. What kind of risk? He asked, turning to face her fully. Vados met his gaze directly. The hyperbolic convergence chamber. That sounds ominous. With good reason. Vados created another visualization, this one showing a spherical chamber marked with intricate patterns. It is an ancient training facility created before the current cosmic cycle. A place where time, space, and dimensional boundaries flex. Like the hyperbolic time chamber Vegeta mentioned, Naruto asked, recalling conversations with the Universe 7 Saiyan Prince. Similar in concept, vastly different in execution, Vados clarified. Where the time chamber merely alters temporal flow, the convergence chamber exists at the intersection of multiple dimensional planes. Within its confines, energy systems that would normally remain distinct can be forcibly harmonized. Naruto studied the visualization with growing interest, so it could help me integrate chakra, ki, and natural energy more quickly. Potentially, yes. Vados dismissed the image. However, the process is extremely taxing on the physical form. Few mortals have survived more than a day within the chamber. None have emerged unchanged. Unchanged how? The forced harmonization affects more than just energy systems, Vados explained. Consciousness, identity, memory, all become more fluid within the chamber. There is risk of psychological fragmentation. Naruto absorbed this information silently. The stakes were clear. Accelerated progress toward Ultra Sage instinct at the risk of his very identity. Yet with Momo's Hiki preparing a multi-point invasion and the tournament of power looming, time was a luxury they couldn't afford. Where is this chamber? He asked finally. Beneath Lord Champa's temple, Vados answered. It has not been used in 618 years, since the last convergence of universal cycles. And you think it could help me achieve Ultra Sage instinct before the tournament? I believe it offers the highest probability of success within the available timeframe, Vados stated carefully. Though I must emphasize that highest probability, in this context remains below 50%. Naruto laughed softly, surprising the angel. Below 50%. Those are better odds than I've had for half the battles in my life. His expression sobered. If this chamber can help me protect both this universe and my home dimension, then the risk is worth it. Vados studied him with an unreadable expression. Your willingness to sacrifice for others is remarkable for a Saiyan. Most of your race, even the peacekeepers of Universe 6, ultimately fight for pride or self-improvement. Maybe that's the shinobi in me, Naruto suggested with a shrug. Or maybe I just had good teachers. He glanced at her curiously. Why are you helping me, anyway? I mean, beyond your official duties. You seem invested in my progress. For perhaps the first time since they'd met, Vados appeared momentarily taken aback by the direct question. She turned slightly, gazing out over the landscape of Sadala, her profile etched against the rising suns. Angels are tasked with observing, guiding, and maintaining cosmic balance, she began. Her voice taking on a quality Naruto hadn't heard before, less instructional, more contemplative. Over millions of years, this duty can become routine. Predictable. We watch civilizations rise and fall. Warriors grow powerful and perish. Universal cycles begin and end. Patterns repeat with minor variations. She turned back to him, her ancient eyes meeting his. You, Naruto Uzumaki, represent something truly novel, a convergence of energies and potentials that defies established patterns. Your development is not merely interesting, it is unprecedented. And, in an existence spanning millions of years, the unprecedented becomes valuable beyond measure. Naruto blinked, processing her words. So I'm like a cosmic curiosity, a break from the routine. A subtle smile curved Vados's lips. That is one interpretation, though perhaps oversimplified. Before Naruto could press further, his enhanced senses detected approaching energy signatures, the distinctive flares of Saiyan Ki that he'd come to recognize as Caulifla and Kale. It appears your training partners have arrived early, Vados observed, her demeanor shifting back to that of instructor. We shall continue our discussion of the convergence chamber after today's combat assessment. Naruto wanted to pursue their previous conversation. Something about Vados's explanation felt incomplete. As though she'd revealed a partial truth while withholding something significant. But experience had taught him that the angel revealed information according to her own inscrutable timetable. Fine, he conceded, but I want to know more about this chamber before I commit to anything. Naturally, Vados agreed with a slight nod. Such decisions should never be made without full understanding of the parameters involved. The conversation ended as two figures appeared on the horizon, flying toward them with the distinctive golden aura of Super Saiyans. Come on, is that all you've got? Caulifla taunted, her spiky hair glowing golden as she circled Naruto in the air. I thought you were supposed to be some interdimensional badass. Naruto grinned despite the sweat pouring down his face. 3 hours into their training session, which more closely resembled an all-out battle, and Caulifla's energy showed no signs of diminishing. Her Super Saiyan form radiated power that would have overwhelmed most opponents. Yet her control remained precise, her movements economical despite her aggressive style. Just warming up, Naruto shot back, forming his signature hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen copies materialized around him, each dropping into Sage mode with practiced synchronicity. The clones scattered in different directions, forcing Caulifla to divide her attention. That trick again, she scoffed, though her eyes tracked the clones' movements carefully. Gotta say, it's pretty useful for someone who can't sense energy properly. One of the clones launched toward her, Rasengan forming in his palm. Who says I can't sense energy? Caulifla smirked, effortlessly dodging the attack while simultaneously blocking a kick from another clone approaching from behind. You rely on those frog eyes to perceive natural energy. A real warrior feels the battlefield instinctively. Her counterattack was brutally efficient, a spinning kick that dispersed the first clone, followed by a ki blast that eliminated 3 more in rapid succession. Yet Naruto noticed something crucial. She was adapting her fighting style to counter his clone tactics, becoming predictable in her responses. Maybe you're right, the real Naruto called from directly above her, having used the clones as a distraction to maneuver into position. Maybe I should try feeling things more instinctively. He deactivated Sage mode mid-descent, closing his eyes and reaching for the wellspring of Saiyan Ki that Vegeta and Caulifla had been helping him access. The energy responded more readily than before, rushing through pathways that felt increasingly natural with each training session. Caulifla's eyes widened as she sensed the shift in his energy. That's it. Now you're thinking like a Saiyan. Their fists collided with thunderous impact, the shockwave rippling outward to flatten the vegetation below. For a breathless moment, they hung suspended in the air, raw power against raw power, neither yielding. Then Naruto felt it, a sudden harmonic convergence between his emerging Saiyan Ki and his native chakra. The energies didn't merely coexist but briefly synchronized, creating a surge of power that manifested as a golden orange aura flickering around his body. Caulifla was thrown backward by the unexpected energy pulse, her guard broken. Naruto pressed the advantage, moving with speed that surprised even him, landing a clean uppercut that sent the female Saiyan spiraling upward. Yes, came Vados' voice from the observation platform below. That momentary conversion, CE is precisely what we've been working toward. Naruto had no time to acknowledge the praise. Caulifla recovered quickly, her expression shifting from surprise to fierce excitement. Now we're talking, she shouted, her own aura intensifying. Let's see if you can do it again. She blurred forward, unleashing a barrage of punches and kicks that forced Naruto entirely on the defensive. Each impact jarred his bones, each blocked strike numbing his forearms. Yet something had changed. The brief taste of harmonized energy had awakened a hunger for more, a cellular memory of potential unlocked. You're holding back, Caulifla accused between strikes. Stop thinking like a shinobi and embrace your Saiyan instincts. I'm trying, Naruto growled, frustration mounting as he failed to recapture the momentary convergence. Try harder. Caulifla increased her assault, driving Naruto backward through sheer offensive pressure. A real Saiyan grows stronger through combat, through pushing past limits. Something in her words, or perhaps in the relentless combat pressure, triggered a response. Naruto felt heat building in his core, radiating outward through his chakra network and ki channels simultaneously. The sensation was both familiar and entirely new, like Kurama's chakra cloak but originating from his own cells rather than the tailed beast's power. That's it, Vados called, her normally composed voice showing rare excitement. Allow the energies to resonate naturally. Don't force the convergence, invite it. Naruto stopped resisting, stopped trying to analytically combine the different energy types as he'd been attempting for weeks. Instead, he surrendered to the sensation, allowing the heat to build and spread of its own accord. His vision sharpened suddenly, colors becoming more vibrant, movements more distinct. Caulifla's next punch seemed to approach in slow motion, allowing him to shift just enough for it to pass harmlessly by his cheek. The counter came instinctively, not planned but simply executed, his body moving with fluid precision that bypassed conscious thought. Caulifla gasped as Naruto's palm strike connected with her solar plexus, the impact précis. Eely calibrated to wind but not seriously injure. She doubled over momentarily, creating space between them. Your eyes, she managed between breaths. They changed. Naruto blinked, suddenly aware of the difference in his perception. What do they look like? Golden, Caulifla answered, straightening. With those horizontal pupils from your sage whatever. And your aura. Naruto looked down at himself. Seeing the golden-orange energy flowing around his body like liquid light. Not the fierce flame of a Super Saiyan, but something more controlled, more refined. Partial manifestation of Ultra Sage instinct, Vados announced. Appearing beside them with instantaneous movement. The initial phase of energy harmonization. Most impressive for your first successful attempt. The momentary distraction broke Naruto's concentration, and the golden-orange aura flickered and faded. His vision returned to normal, the heightened perception receding like an outgoing tide. I lost it, he said, frustration evident in his voice. Of course you did, Vados replied matter-of-factly. Maintaining such a state requires complete integration of consciousness with energy flow, something that develops only through extensive practice or extreme necessity. Or the hyperbolic convergence chamber, Naruto suggested, giving Vados a meaningful look. Caulifla glanced between them curiously. The what now? Sounds like some intense training setup. It is, Vados confirmed without elaboration. A discussion for another time. For now, I believe Kale has been waiting quite patiently for her turn to train with Naruto. They descended to the ground where Kale had been observing the aerial battle. Unlike Caulifla's bold enthusiasm, Kale's approach to training had been reserved, almost hesitant. Why? Naruto had quickly learned not to mistake her quiet demeanor for weakness. Beneath her shy exterior lay power that dwarfed most Saiyans. Good morning, Kale, Naruto greeted with a warm smile, landing softly before her. Ready for our session? Kale nodded, her dark eyes briefly meeting his before darting away. I saw what happened up there. The golden-orange aura. It was beautiful. Thanks, Naruto replied, somewhat surprised by her choice of adjective. Most Saiyans described power in terms of impressiveness or destruction potential. Beautiful was not in their typical vocabulary. All right, I'm gonna go raid the food supplies, Caulifla announced, stretching her arms overhead. Try not to destroy the training grounds while I'm gone. And Kale, her voice softened slightly, remember what we talked about. Don't hold back just because you're worried about hurting him. Kale blushed but nodded determinedly. I'll try, sis. As Caulifla flew off toward the Saiyan compound in the distance, Vados created a spherical barrier around the training area with a wave of her staff. A precautionary measure, she explained. Kale's particular energy manifestation can be unpredictable. Naruto had heard about Kale's berserker form, a transformation unique among Universe 6 Saiyans that amplified her power exponentially while making it difficult to control. In their previous training sessions, she had carefully avoided this transformation, working instead on precision and technique. Today, Vados continued, we will attempt something different. Naruto has demonstrated the ability to momentarily harmonize his energy systems. Kale possesses exceptional raw power but struggles with control. Perhaps these complementary challenges can be addressed simultaneously. Kale looked nervous. You want me to transform? Here, but what if I can't? That is precisely the point, Vados interrupted gently. Naruto's sage abilities give him unique insight into natural energy flow. He may be able to perceive aspects of your transformation that have eluded previous analysis. Naruto nodded encouragingly. It's worth trying. And don't worry about hurting me, I'm pretty durable. He grinned, tapping his chest. Perks of being part Uzumaki, part Saiyan, and part knucklehead. This earned a small smile from Kale, her posture relaxing slightly. Okay, I'll try. But stay back at first. When the transformation starts, I sometimes can't recognize people. Understood, Naruto agreed, stepping back to give her space. Kale moved to the center of the barrier, closing her eyes in concentration. Her energy began to rise steadily, a controlled power-up that demonstrated considerable technical skill despite her self-doubt. Focus on the catalyst, Vados instructed. The emotional trigger that initiates the transformation. Kale's brow furrowed, her aura shifting from white to gold as she accessed her Super Saiyan form. Unlike Caulifla's confident manifestation, Kale's transformation seemed almost reluctant, as though she were coaxing rather than commanding the power. That's good, Naruto encouraged, activating his Sage mode to better perceive the subtle shifts in her energy. Your control is amazing, Kale. She opened her eyes at his praise, the teal irises of a Super Saiyan briefly visible before something changed. A flicker of insecurity, a moment of doubt. Naruto couldn't identify the exact trigger, but suddenly Kale's energy spiked dramatically. It's happening, she gasped, her voice strained. I can't hold it back. Her slender frame began to expand, muscles bulking impossibly as her golden aura turned a sickly green. Her eyes, previously focused, went blank with rage. The transformation completed in seconds, leaving a hulking, berserk Rsion of Kale where the shy girl had stood. Rog. The primal roar shook the barrier as Kale, or the creature she had become, pounded her chest with massive fists. Through his sage perception, Naruto observed something fascinating. Kale's energy hadn't merely increased, it had fundamentally changed character. Rather than flowing through defined pathways like normal ki, it saturated her entire being, radiating outward in chaotic, uncontrolled waves. Interesting, Vados murmured, observing from outside the barrier. Her legendary Super Saiyan form operates on principles closer to natural energy than conventional ki. Unrefined, but fascinating. The berserker Kale turned, blank eyes fixing on Naruto. For a heartbeat, there was no recognition, just primal rage seeking an outlet. Then she charged, covering the distance between them with shocking speed despite her increased mass. Naruto dodged the first wild swing, feeling the air displace violently as her fist passed centimeters from his head. The second attack, a haymaker that could have leveled a mountain, he was forced to block, crossing his arms and reinforcing them with Sage Chakra. The impact sent him skidding backward 50 meters, arms numb despite his reinforcement. Okay, so she hits hard, he muttered, shaking feeling back into his limbs. Really hard. Rarrrgh. Destroy. Kale roared, pursuing with single-minded fury. As Naruto continued evading, his sage perception revealed more details about Kale's condition. Her consciousness hadn't disappeared during the transformation, it had been overwhelmed, submerged beneath the deluge of uncontrolled power. Somewhere beneath the berserker rage, Kale was still present, still aware, but unable to reassert control. The realization sparked an idea. If her condition resembled a natural energy overload, perhaps the same principles could apply to its regulation. Vados. Naruto called, narrowly avoiding a green energy blast that cratered the ground where he'd stood. Her transformation, it's like natural energy poisoning. Too much power without the control structure to channel it. A compelling theory, Vados acknowledged. What do you propose? In Sage training, we learn to balance natural energy with physical and spiritual energy, Naruto explained, creating shadow clones to distract the rampaging Kale. If I can introduce my balanced Sage Chakra into her system, it might provide a template for control. Vados considered this for a moment before nodding. A risky approach, but theoretically sound. Proceed with caution. Naruto didn't need the warning. One direct hit from Berserker Kale in her current state could potentially kill him, Saiyan durability or not. He needed to approach this carefully. Creating 20 shadow clones, he arranged them in a circular formation around Kale. Each clone entered Sage mode, then began gathering natural energy beyond their immediate needs, storing it for what would come next. Kale, Naruto called, trying to reach the consciousness buried beneath the rage. I know you can hear me. I'm going to help you control this power, but I need you to trust me. The berserker paused momentarily, her blank eyes flickering with something, recognition. Perhaps, or at least hesitation. It was enough of an opening. Naruto and his clones moved simultaneously, each applying a seal tag infused with Sage Chakra to different points on Kale's body. Sage Art. Harmonizing Seal Network. The tags activated, creating a geometric pattern of glowing lines that connected across Kale's transformed body. Naruto pressed his palm to her forehead, the final connection point in the network, and channeled balanced sage chakra directly into her system. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Kale's chaotic energy began to stabilize, the wild fluctuations smoothing into more regulated patterns. Her bulging muscles gradually receded toward their normal proportions, though not completely reverting. The blank rage in her eyes cleared, awareness returning. "And Naruto," she gasped, her voice hoarse but recognizably her own. "I'm here," he assured her, maintaining the chakra flow. "Don't fight the transformation. Work with it. Your power isn't something to fear or suppress, it's part of you, waiting to be guided rather than controlled." Through their connected chakra, Naruto could feel Kale's consciousness strengthening, reasserting itself not by dominating the transformation but by harmonizing with it. The sickly green aura surrounding her gradually shifted, gaining golden undertones as the balance improved. "That's it," he encouraged. "Find the middle path. Not berserker, not suppressed. Just you." Kale with all her power expressed naturally. After several tense minutes, the transformation stabilized into something new, a form that maintained the increased muscle mass and power of the legendary Super Saiyan, but proportioned more normally, with full consciousness and control evident in Kale's focused eyes. I can feel it," she whispered, staring at her hands in wonder. "The power, but it's not overwhelming me. It's listening to me." "Remarkable," Vados commented, dissolving the barrier as the immediate danger passed. A controlled legendary Super Saiyan form. The first in recorded history. Kale's new form radiated power that easily surpassed Caulifla's Super Saiyan 2, yet the chaotic, destructive quality had been replaced by something more refined, more directed. Her aura had settled into a steady gold-green luminescence that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "How did you do this?" she asked Naruto, genuine awe in her voice. "I just showed your energy a different way to flow," he explained, dismissing his remaining shadow clones. "The same principles I used to balance natural energy in Sage mode. Your body already knew how to transform, it just needed help finding the middle path between control and release." Kale's eyes filled with tears of gratitude. "No one's ever, everyone always told me to suppress it, to hold it back. Even Caulifla. She encouraged me to transform, but we never found a way to maintain consciousness through it. Sometimes the path forward isn't about more control or more power," Naruto said, thinking of his own journey with Kurama. "It's about finding harmony between seemingly opposing forces. Precisely the principle underlying Ultra Sage instinct." Vados interjected, studying both of them with renewed interest. Most illuminating to see it applied successfully in this context. Kale released her new transformation, returning to her base form with controlled precision rather than the usual collapse from exhaustion. The experience seemed to have changed something fundamental in her demeanor, a new confidence evident in the way she stood. The steadiness of her gaze. "Thank you," she said simply, but the depth of emotion behind those two words was palpable. Naruto rubbed the back of his head, slightly embarrassed by her intensity. "Hey, that's what friends are for, right? Besides, you helped me too. Seeing how your energy works gave me ideas about my own training." "Indeed," Vados agreed. "Today's sessions have been exceptionally productive." Naruto achieved partial manifestation of Ultra Sage instinct, and Kale developed a controlled version of her legendary form. "Most impressive progress. Wait until Caulifla sees this," Kale said, a rare smile lighting her features. "She's going to be so excited." As if summoned by her name, Caulifla's energy signature appeared on the horizon, rapidly approaching. Within moments, she landed beside them, carrying a container that emitted tantalizing food aromas. "Brought lunch since we're training through," she stopped mid-sentence, staring at Kale. "Something's different. Your energy, it's changed." Quote. Kale nodded, unable to contain her excitement. "Naruto helped me find balance in my legendary form. I can transform without losing control now." Caulifla's eyes widened. "Seriously? That's amazing." She turned to Naruto with newfound respect. "How do you manage that? We've been trying for years." Before Naruto could answer, Vados' staff pulsed with light, drawing everyone's attention. "Pardon the interruption, but I'm receiving a communication from Lord Champa. It appears we have visitors." "Visitors," Naruto repeated. "Who?" Universe 11 representatives, Vados replied, reading the information displayed in her staff's orb. Specifically, Marcarita and several Pride troopers, including Top and Jiren. Universe 11, Caulifla frowned. What do those justice freaks want? Apparently, Vados said with a slight raise of her eyebrow, they've detected dimensional disturbances in their universe as well. Disturbances matching the pattern of those surrounding planet Sadala. Naruto's stomach tightened with concern. Momoshiki's expansion is progressing faster than we thought. So it would appear, Vados agreed. Lord Champa requests our immediate presence at his temple. The Universe 11 delegation wishes to interview our interdimensional visitors. Interview sounds ominous, Caulifla muttered. The Pride troopers take their role as universal peacekeepers very seriously, Vados explained. From their perspective, Naruto and Hinata represent potential security threats, interdimensional anomalies whose arrival coincides with concerning phenomena. But we're trying to stop those phenomena, Naruto protested. A distinction they will undoubtedly wish to verify for themselves, Vados replied. Particularly Jiren. His trust is not easily earned. Jiren, Caulifla scoffed. Universe 11's almighty champion. I've heard he's strong, but nobody's unbeatable. His strength is not exaggerated, Vados stated with unusual seriousness. In terms of raw power, Jiren currently stands as the mortal most likely to surpass a god of destruction. His participation in the Tournament of Power is a primary reason Universe 11 is favored to win. This sobered everyone. If even Vados, attendant to a destroyer god, acknowledged Jiren's power so plainly, the Universe 11 warrior was clearly not someone to be taken lightly. We should clean up before meeting them, Kale suggested practically, gesturing to their battle-worn training attire. An excellent suggestion, Vados agreed. We shall depart for Lord Champa's temple in 30 minutes. Sufficient time for everyone to make themselves presentable for inter-universal diplomacy. Lord Champa's temple floated in the void between worlds, a massive, ornate structure that somehow managed to appear both ancient and timeless. Unlike Beerus's Egyptian-styled pyramid, Champa's divine residence resembled a celestial palace from ancient Chinese mythology, with sweeping curve roofs and delicate spires that glittered with otherworldly materials. Naruto, freshly showered and dressed in a formal Saiyan combat uniform provided by the Sadala Defense Forces, stood beside Hinata on the temple's main reception platform. After 3 weeks of separate training regimens, seeing her was a welcome relief, though he immediately noticed changes in her appearance and energy signature. Your eyes, he said by way of greeting. They're different. Hinata smiled, the lavender orbs of her Byakugan now bearing subtle golden rings around the pupils. Dr. Korn's modifications to my ocular chakra network. They've expanded my perception range considerably. She activated her enhanced Byakugan briefly, veins appearing around her eyes as usual, but now accompanied by a faint golden glow. I can perceive energy across dimensional boundaries now. That's amazing, Naruto said sincerely. How did they manage that? A combination of technology and energy infusion, Hinata explained. They isolated the quantum resonance patterns in my visual chakra and synchronized them with interdimensional frequencies. She smiled at his bemused expression. At least, that's how Drive. Korn explained it. I mostly focused on the practical applications. Their reunion was interrupted as Vados appeared beside them, staff in hand. The Universe 11 delegation has arrived. Lord Champa requests your presence in the Grand Hall immediately. They followed the angel through corridors that seemed to defy conventional physics, distances expanding and contracting based on some logic beyond mortal comprehension. Eventually, they emerged into a vast circular chamber dominated by a massive round table. On one side sat an obese purple cat-like being whom Naruto recognized from descriptions as Champa, god of destruction for Universe 6. Beside him stood Caulifla, Kale, and several other Universe 6 representatives, including Renso and Hit, the legendary assassin. On the opposite side of the table sat the Universe 11 delegation. At their center was a tall, muscular being with red skin and large, penetrating black eyes, Jiren, Naruto presumed. Beside him stood a clown-like figure with a serious expression and an elaborate mustache, likely Toppo, the leader of the Pride troopers. Several other uniformed individuals completed their party. Most striking, However, was the female angel standing behind them, Marcarita. Universe 11's divine attendant. Physically, she resembled Vados and Whis, with the same pale blue skin and white hair, though hers was styled in an elaborate updo adorned with ornaments. Her expression was more severe than Vados's typically serene countenance, her eyes sharp and analytical as they tracked Naruto and Hinata's entrance. Finally, Champa exclaimed, his voice higher pitched than Naruto had expected from a destroyer god. Let's get this tedious meeting started. I'm missing my afternoon snack for this. Lord Champa, Vados murmured reprovingly. Interuniv. RSAL diplomacy requires certain protocols. Yes, Champa waved dismissively. Welcome to Universe 6, blah blah, honored guests, etc. Now, Topo, state your business so we can move on to the refreshments portion of this gathering. The mustached warrior stood, seemingly unperturbed by Champa's rudeness. Thank you, Lord Champa. We come representing the justice and security interests of Universe 11. In recent weeks, we have detected 17 distinct dimensional anomalies within our universe, disturbances that threaten the cosmic order we are sworn to protect. He turned his stern gaze directly to Naruto and Hinata. Our intelligence indicates these anomalies began immediately following the arrival of these interdimensional travelers in Universe 7, subsequently transferring to Universe 6. We seek to understand the nature of these phenomena and determine whether they represent a threat to multiversal stability. They didn't cause the anomalies, Caulifla interjected impatiently. If anything, they're victims of them. Some creep from their dimension is trying to break through and harvest our universes or whatever. Caulifla, Renzo cautioned. Protocol. Topo's expression remained stern. We are aware of the reported Otsutsuki incursion. However, verification from independent sources is required before Universe 11 can formulate an appropriate response. Then verify. Jiren spoke for the first time, his deep voice resonating with quiet authority. The girl has visual powers. The boy has multiple energy signatures. Their truth or deception will be evident. Naru. Met Jiren's intense gaze without flinching. There was something familiar about the Universe 11 warrior, not physically, but in the weight of purpose he carried, the sense of a man driven by absolute conviction. We have nothing to hide, Naruto stated firmly. Ask your questions. Marcarita stepped forward, her staff tapping once against the floor with a sound that seemed to echo through Diamond. Science rather than merely across the room. I shall conduct the verification, she announced. With your permission, Lady Hinata, I would examine your enhanced visual capabilities first. Hinata glanced at Naruto, who nodded encouragingly. Before stepping toward the Universe 11 angel. Of course, Marcarita touched the tip of her staff gently to Hinata's forehead. Your consciousness will remain your own. But I will perceive what your eyes have witnessed. Do you consent? I do, Hinata replied steadily. A soft glow emanated from the contact point, surrounding both Hinata and Marcarita in a sphere of pale light. For several minutes, they remained motionless, engaged in some form of mental communion beyond the perception of others in the room. Finally, Marcarita withdrew her staff, her severe expression softening marginally. The Byakugan speaks truth, she announced. I have witnessed the dimensional breaches through her perception. The Otsutsuki threat is genuine, as is her account of the pocket dimension's nature. Relief flickered across Hinata's face as she stepped back to Naruto's side. Thank you for confirming our testimony. Marcarita turned her attention to Naruto, studying him with heightened interest. You present a more complex verification challenge. Your energy signature contains elements unknown even to angels. A direct communion might prove unpredictable. There is an alternative, Vados suggested, exchanging a meaningful look with her fellow angel. The resonance sphere. Marcarita considered this briefly before nodding. An appropriate solution. Lord Belmont authorized its use if necessary. At a gesture from both angels, a crystalline orb materialized in the center of the table, hovering above its surface. Unlike the viewing orbs in their staffs, this sphere appeared to contain swirling galaxies in miniature, entire cosmic systems rotating within its transparent confines. The resonance sphere allows for energy pattern analysis without direct communion. Marcarita explained. It will extract nothing from you, merely create a harmonic reflection of your true nature, something that cannot be falsified or disguised. What do I need to do? Naruto asked, eyeing the sphere with cautious fascination. Simply place your hands on either side of it, Vados instructed. Your energy will do the rest. Naruto approached the table, reaching out to position his hands as directed. The moment his palms neared the sphere, he felt a subtle pull, not invasive like Momoshiki's absorption technique, but more like recognition, as though the sphere were greeting a long-lost relative. As his hands made contact, the miniature galaxies within the sphere froze momentarily before reorganizing themselves into new patterns. 3 distinct energy signatures manifested visually: orange for chakra, gold for Saiyan ki, and green for natural energy. The 3 energies swirled around each other, occasionally intersecting to create brief flashes of a 4th color, a pearlescent white that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the physical eye could perceive. Fascinating, Marcarita murmured, her professional detachment briefly overcome by genuine interest. The harmonic convergence potential is even greater than reported. Jiren had risen to his feet, his penetrating gaze fixed on the energy display. These patterns, they resemble the dimensional disturbances, but inverted. A key rather than a lock. Precisely, Vados confirmed. Naruto's unique energy composition doesn't create the dimensional weaknesses, it resonates with them, potentially allowing for their stabilization or sealing. Naruto felt the sphere growing warmer beneath his palms, the energies within spinning faster as if responding to the discussion about them. Suddenly, a 4th distinct signature appeared, a dark red swirl that could only represent Kurama's chakra, integrating with the existing pattern to create new harmonics. The tailed beast consciousness, Marcarita observed. It participates in the energy matrix voluntarily, not through coercion. A symbiotic relationship rather than parasitic. Toppo stroked his mustache thoughtfully. This verification supports their account. The interdimensional travelers are not the source of the threat, but potentially key to addressing it. Jiren remained silent, his expression unreadable as he studied the sphere. Finally, he spoke. Potential is not achievement. The boy's unique energy means nothing if he cannot master it in time. A fair assessment, Vados acknowledged. Which is why we've been accelerating his training regimen. In fact, we plan to utilize the hyperbolic convergence chamber too. The convergence chamber, Marcarita interrupted, genuine alarm breaking through her composed demeanor. That facility was sealed by divine decree after the last universal reset. The risk factors are calculated and deemed acceptable given the circumstances, Vados completed smoothly. Unless Universe 11 has an alternative solution to offer within the 17-day timeframe before the Tournament of Power. Tension crackled between the angels, subtle but palpable, like distant thunder presaging a storm. Naruto sensed underlying currents in their exchange, histories and knowledge far beyond mortal comprehension informing their positions. Perhaps, Marcarita said after a measured pause, a collaborative approach would be more prudent. Universe 11 possesses resources that complement Universe 6's technological advantages. Such as, Champa demanded, speaking up after having been uncharacteristically quiet during the verification process. The Pride Troopers' meditation techniques, Toppo offered. Particularly Jiren's method for achieving absolute focus under extreme pressure. It allowed him to transcend conventional power limitations. And Universe 11's temporal stabilization technology, Marcarita added, which could potentially mitigate the convergence chamber's more unpredictable effects. Vados considered this, tapping her staff thoughtfully against her palm. A compelling proposal. Combined with our existing training regimen, such additions could significantly improve success probability while reducing associated risks. Wait, Naruto interjected, removing his hands from the resonance sphere, which continued to display his energy pattern even without contact. Are you suggesting some kind of joint training program between universes? Precisely, Marcarita confirmed. Universe 11's justice mandate compels intervention against multiversal threats. The Otsutsuki incursion qualifies as such. However, her gaze sharpened, this cooperation would require your presence in Universe 11 for at least part of the preparation period. Split training, Vados clarified. Divided between universes to maximize resource utilization. Champa huffed indignantly. Now wait just a minute. The boy is Universe 6's asset for the tournament. I won't have Universe 11 poaching our secret weapon. This transcends tournament concerns, Marcarita stated firmly. The dimensional threat affects all universes equally. Cooperation serves our collective interest. Besides, Vados added with subtle mischief, nothing in the tournament rules prohibits contestants from training in multiple universes before the event. The gods and angels continued debating logistical details. But Naruto's attention had shifted to Jiren, who continued to study the energy display with intense focus. Something about the warrior's isolation amid the discussion struck a chord of recognition in Naruto. Breaking protocol, he approached Jiren directly. "You've lost something important to you," Naruto said quietly, speaking low enough that only Jiren could hear. "Something that drives everything you do." Jiren's piercing gaze snapped to Naruto's face, surprise briefly visible before his expression returned to impassive stone. "You know nothing of me." "I know that look," Naruto replied evenly. "I've seen it before, in Sasuke's eyes, in Gaara's, in my own reflection. The determination of someone who's had their foundations shattered and rebuilt themselves around a single, absolute purpose." For a moment, genuine emotion flickered across Jiren's stoic features, recognition, perhaps, or the surprise of being truly seen beneath his carefully constructed facade. "Your perception is unexpected," the Universe 11 warrior acknowledged reluctantly. "Though ultimately irrelevant to our current situation. Maybe," Naruto conceded, "or maybe understanding each other's driving forces matters more than either of us realizes. If we're going to train together, shouldn't we at least know what we're fighting for?" Jiren studied him silently for several seconds before responding. "I fight for justice. Absolute, unwavering justice. The only truth that remains when all else falls away." The words were delivered with mechanical precision, but Naruto sensed the ocean of pain and conviction beneath them. "Justice is important," he agreed. "But so are bonds, connections. I fight to protect people who matter to me, and I get stronger because of those bonds, not despite them." Something unidentifiable passed through Jiren's eyes. Not agreement, certainly, but perhaps a flicker of recognition, the acknowledgement of a fundamentally different worldview that nonetheless contained its own internal coherence. Their exchange was interrupted as the official discussion concluded, Champa's irritated voice cutting through the hall. "Fine. Joint training it is. But I won. Chi guarantees that Universe 11 won't have exclusive access to any techniques or transformations the boy develops." Similarly, Toppo countered, Universe 6 must commit to full disclosure of all Diamond Seonal data collected through their monitoring stations. The negotiations continued, but Vados approached Naruto, speaking quietly. "It appears you've made some impression on Jiren. Most unexpected. He rarely engages with opponents before combat. We understand each other, in a way," Naruto replied, watching as Jiren rejoined his delegation. "Different paths, similar starting points. Intriguing observation," Vados murmured. "Though I would caution against assuming too much commonality. Jiren's path has been singular in its isolation." Before Naruto could inquire further, Marcarita joined them. Her formal demeanor slightly relaxed now that the verification was complete. "Naruto Uzumaki," she addressed him directly. "I must admit, your energy composition presents fascinating possibilities. In all my millennia of observation, I've never encountered a mortal capable of naturally harmonizing such disparate power sources." "It doesn't feel natural yet," Naruto admitted. "More trying to get 3 different instruments to play the same song when they're all in different keys." Marcarita's lips curved in the ghost of a smile. "An apt metaphor. Perhaps what you require is not merely practice with each instrument individually, but a comprehensive understanding of the underlying melody." "The melody," Naruto repeated, intrigued by the continuation of his analogy. "The fundamental resonance that connects all energy forms," Marcarita explained. "In Universe 11, we study what we call the harmonic principles, the mathematical and spiritual foundations that underlie all manifestations of power. From ki to divine energy. This is precisely why joint training would prove beneficial," Vados interjected. "Universe 6 excels at practical application and technological augmentation. Universe 11 specializes in theoretical foundations and disciplined methodology. Complementary approaches," Marcarita agreed, studying Naruto with renewed interest. "Though I must confess, professional curiosity about how a mortal consciousness will process such comprehensive training. The strain will be considerable." There was something in her tone, not quite concern, but perhaps a more detached form of interest in his well-being, that caught Naruto's attention. Unlike Vados's enigmatic personal interest or Whisa's scientific curiosity, Marcarita seemed genuinely focused on the philosophical implications of his development. "I've handled worse," Naruto assured her with more confidence than he felt. Sage training involved sitting perfectly still on a spike while balancing natural energy. "If I failed, I'd have turned into a stone-toed statue." This elicited raised eyebrows from both angels. "Crude but effective methodology," Marcarita commented. "Though our approach will be somewhat more sophisticated and considerably more intensive. The real question," Vados said, turning serious, "is whether you consent to this joint training program. Particularly the use of the hyperbolic convergence chamber. Even with Universe 11's temporal stabilization technology." Naruto glanced across the room to where Hinata was engaged in conversation with Kale and Caulifla. As if sensing his attention, she looked up, meeting his eyes with a reassuring smile that somehow communicated both support for whatever he decided and confidence in his ability to handle it. "If this is what it takes to protect both our home dimension and these universes," he said, turning back to the angels, "then yes. I consent." "Excellent," Marcarita approved. "We shall begin preparations immediately. The temporal stabilization equipment must be calibrated specifically to your energy signature before implementation. And I shall inform Lord Champa that arrangements have been finalized," Vados added. "Though perhaps after he's finished negotiating tournament concessions with Toppo. He does so enjoy feeling that he's outsmarted other universes." As the angels departed to handle their respective tasks, Naruto found himself momentarily alone, watching the various universal representatives interact across cultural and cosmic divides. The situation was surreal. Interdimensional politics, angel attendance, gods of destruction. Tournaments between universes. Yet beneath the exotic trappings, he recognized familiar patterns. Pride, ambition, cooperation, suspicion, the same forces that shape relationships in the shinobi world operated here too, just on a vastly expanded scale. "Overwhelming, isn't it?" Hinata's voice broke through his thoughts as she joined him. All these powerful beings from different universes. And somehow we're at the center of their attention. Naruto chuckled. "Yeah, kind of makes being Hokage seem like a small ambition in comparison." "I don't think so," Hinata replied thoughtfully. "The scale is different, but the principle is the same. Protecting people, building connections, finding peace through understanding rather than dominance." She smiled up at him. "That's always been your way, Naruto-kun. That's why you can connect with someone like Jiren despite your differences. You noticed that, huh? My eyes see many things," she reminded him with a hint of playfulness. "Including how you managed to reach someone everyone else describes as unreachable." Naruto shrugged. "He reminds me of Sasuke, in a way. All that power focused around a core of pain. Believing strength is the only truth worth pursuing. And you'll show him another path," Hinata said with quiet certainty. "Just as you did for Sasuke, for Gaara, for so many others." Her confidence warmed him, pushing back against the doubts that had been growing since the verification process. The resonance sphere had shown him just how complex his energy truly was, how many moving parts needed to align perfectly for Ultra Sage instinct to manifest fully. "I hope you're right," he said. "Because according to Vados and Marcarita, I've got about 2 weeks to master a transformation that should take years to develop. All while preparing for both a multiversal tournament and an interdimensional invasion." Hinata took his hand, her touch grounding him in the moment. "When have possible odds ever stopped Naruto Uzumaki? Besides," her expression turned more serious, "you won't be facing this alone. Universe 6, Universe 11, Vados, Marcarita, they're all investing in your success." "And you?" Naruto asked, suddenly needing to hear her answer. Hinata's eyes softened. "I'll be continuing my training with Dr. Korn and the Sadala research team. My enhanced Byakugan can track the dimensional disturbances in ways their technology can't. While you're mastering Ultra Sage Instinct, I'll be helping develop the early warning system for Otsutsuki breaches." "Sounds like we're both going to be busy," Naruto observed. "Yes," Hinata agreed, "but we'll be working toward the same goal, finding a way home while protecting these universes that have helped us." Home. The word triggered a complex mixture of emotions in Naruto. 3 weeks in this new reality had changed him in ways he was only beginning to understand. His Saiyan heritage, awakened and developing rapidly through intensive training. His growing connections with people like Caulifla, Kale, and even the angels. The expanding scope of his understanding about reality itself. When, if, they returned to the shinobi world, he wouldn't be the same Naruto who left. The question was whether that transformation would make him better equipped to protect his precious people, or distance him from the very bonds that had always been his strength. "You're thinking too hard," Hinata observed gently. "I can practically see the smoke coming out of your ears." Naruto laughed, the sound breaking through his philosophical spiral. "Sorry. Guess I've been spending too much time with angels. They're rubbing off on me." "Speaking of angels," Hinata said, her tone carefully neutral, "I've noticed both Vados and Marcarita seem to have taken a particular interest in you. Beyond professional duty." Naruto blinked, caught off guard by the observation. "You think so? I figured that's just how angels are, cryptic and intense about everything." Hinata's lips curved in a knowing smile. "My eyes see many things, remember. Including subtle shifts in energy when certain angels look at you. It's interesting." "Interesting," Naruto repeated, suddenly feeling like he was missing something obvious. "What do you mean?" Before Hinata could elaborate, Vados approached them, staff in hand. "Preparations are complete. The Universe 11 delegation will depart within the hour, with the expectation that Naruto will join them in 3 days' time, after initial training in the Convergence Chamber." "So soon?" Naruto asked, surprised by the accelerated timeline. "The dimensional disturbances are increasing in frequency and intensity," Vados explained. 17 days before the tournament now appears optimistic. Momoshiki may make his move sooner. Time is of the essence." Naruto nodded, understanding the urgency. "All right. When do we start with the Convergence Chamber?" "Tomorrow at dawn," Vados replied. "The chamber requires specific cosmic alignments for optimal functionality. A conjunction of Universe 6 celestial bodies will provide suitable conditions beginning at sunrise." "I'll be ready," Naruto promised. Though uncertainty churned beneath his confident exterior, Vados studied him for a moment, her ancient eyes seeing far more than he was comfortable revealing. "Your apprehension is natural," she said, her voice softening slightly. "The chamber represents unknown territory even for beings far older than yourself. Yet I believe your unique composition, both energetically and psychologically, makes you better suited to its effects than most mortals. That's reassuring, I think." A hint of amusement touched Vados's features. "It was intended to be. Rest well tonight, Naruto Uzumaki. Tomorrow, you begin a journey few mortals have undertaken and fewer still have completed successfully." With that sobering thought, she departed to coordinate with Marcarita on final arrangements. Naruto watched her go, struck again by the strange duality of the angels, simultaneously supportive mentors and enigmatic cosmic entities operating according to unfathomable agendas. "She's right, you know," Hinata said after a moment. "You should rest. We both should. Tomorrow will demand everything we have." Naruto nodded, knowing she was right. Yet as they left the Grand Hall, following a Saiyan attenda NT to their assigned quarters within Lord Champa's temple, he couldn't shake the feeling that he stood at a threshold beyond which nothing would remain unchanged. Not the multiverse, not the shinobi world, and certainly not himself. The journey toward Ultra Sage Instinct was not merely a path to power, but a transformation of identity itself. Whatever emerged from the hyperbolic convergence chain, our tomorrow would be both Naruto Uzumaki and something more, a synthesis of Saiyan, shinobi, and sage that had never existed before in any universe. As he drifted toward sleep that night, his dreams refilled with swirling energies and echoing voices, Kurama's rumbling counsel, Vados's enigmatic guidance, Marcarita's harmonic principles, all blending together into a cosmic symphony with himself somehow at its center. Through it all ran a single, persistent question. When all these energies finally harmonized, when Ultra Sage Instinct manifested in its complete form, who exactly would he become? The answer awaited him in the chamber, along with challenges beyond anything he had faced before. Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, Guardians of Justice. Pain. Exquisite, clarifying pain. Naruto's body SL. Amid into the reinforced wall of Universe 11's Justice Chamber, the impact creating a perfect silhouette impression in the supposedly indestructible material. He slid to the floor, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Ribs screaming in protest as he struggled to breathe. Across the vast training arena, Jiren stood motionless, not a hair out of place, his expression unchanged, as though he hadn't just delivered a blow that would have killed most beings in the multiverse. You hesitate, Jiren stated, his deep voice echoing in the cavernous space. Your mind divides between techniques when it should unify. This is weakness. Quote, Naruto pushed himself up, ignoring the protest of damaged muscles. Easy for you to say. You're not trying to combine three different energy systems that were never meant to work together. Excuses, Jiren replied flatly. Energy is energy. Your artificial distinctions limit your potential. From her observation platform above, Marcarita watched the exchange with analytical precision. Naruto's criticism has merit, Jiren. His challenge is fundamentally different from your own path to power. The angel descended gracefully, her staff tapping lightly against the polished floor as she approached. Unlike Vados' often cryptic guidance, Marcarita's instruction was technical, precise, breaking complex energy mechanics into fundamental principles with mathematical elegance. The harmonization process requires more than force of will, she continued, circling Naruto with evaluative eyes. It requires understanding the resonant frequencies of each energy type and finding their common denominator. She paused, studying the golden-orange aura flickering intermittently around his form. Your progress is accelerating. The convergence chamber's TS continue to integrate throughout your system. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing inward on the changes that had begun 5 days ago in Universe 6. The memory remained vivid, too vivid, as though the experience had been burned into his consciousness with divine fire. 5 days earlier, the hyperbolic convergence chamber, Universe 6. This is it, Naruto asked, staring dubiously at what appeared to be an ordinary circular door embedded in the bedrock beneath Lord Champa's temple. The metal surface bore intricate engravings, mathematical formulas and geometric patterns that seemed to shift subtly when viewed from different angles. Appearances can be deceiving, Vados replied, tracing patterns in the air with her staff. The chamber exists partially outside conventional spacetime. What you perceive is merely its anchor point in our reality. As she completed the activation sequence, the engravings on the door illuminated with pale blue light, pulsing in complex rhythms. Slowly, silently, the massive portal swung inward, revealing not a room but a swirling vortex of colors that shouldn't exist in nature, hues that hurt to look at directly, as though the human brain wasn't designed to process them. Whoa, Naruto breathed, taking an instinctive step back. Indeed, Vados agreed. The chamber's interior exists at the convergence of multiple dimensional planes. Within, barriers between energy types become permeable, allowing for integrations impossible in normal space. Naruto swallowed hard, eyeing the writhing colors with growing apprehension. And you're sure this won't, dissolve me into my component atoms or something? There are no certainties with the convergence chamber, Vados stated matter-of-factly. However, Universe 11's temporal stabilization technology has been successfully integrated. She gestured to a metallic band hovering beside the entrance. This will anchor your consciousness to your physical form, preventing complete dimensional diffusion. Complete dimensional diffusion, Naruto repeated flatly. That sounds bad. Quite terminal. Yes, Vados confirmed without changing her serene expression. Though the probability has been reduced to approximately 3.7%, which Lord Champa deemed an acceptable risk given the circumstances. How comforting. The choice remains yours, Naruto Uzumaki, Vados reminded him, her tone softening slightly. There are alternative training methods, though none with comparable efficiency ratios. Naruto stared into the swirling vortex, weighing his options. The threats they faced. Momoshiki's impending invasion. The tournament of power with universes at stake, left little room for caution. Power was needed, quickly. How long will I be in there? From your subjective perspective, approximately 72 hours. Vados explained. From external reality, precisely 27 minutes. The temporal differential is part of the chamber's function. Naruto nodded, decision made. All right, let's do this. Vados handed him the metallic band. Place this around your forehead. It will activate automatically upon entry. The device was surprisingly light, conforming to his head shape as though custom-made. As he secured it in place, Vados offered final instructions. Within the chamber, focus on the harmonic resonance between your energy systems, not forcing them together, but finding their natural convergence points. The environment will assist by temporarily removing the barriers between them. And if something goes wrong? Naruto asked. The band contains an emergency extraction protocol. Simply channel chakra into it with the clear intention of exit, and it will return you to this point. Vados paused, adding with unusual gravity, though I must caution that premature extraction can result in incomplete reintegration, meaning energy systems left permanently fragmented. Not fatal, but severely limiting to your potential. Naruto took a deep breath, centering himself. Right, no backing out once I'm in. Got it. One final note, Vados said as he approached the threshold. You will not be entirely alone in the chamber. Naruto paused. What do you mean? The chamber responds to consciousness. Aspects of yourself, memories, fears, unresolved conflicts, may manifest as apparitions. They are not real in the conventional sense, but neither are they simple hallucinations. Think of them as psychic echoes given form by the chamber's unique properties. So I'll be fighting my inner demons. Literally. A simplification, but essentially correct, Vados confirmed. Remember your purpose, maintain your core identity, and you will emerge transformed rather than fractured. With those less than reassuring final words, Naruto stepped through the doorway and into the swirling maelstrom of impossibility. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming, as though his body were being simultaneously compressed into a singularity and expanded across infinite space. Colors became sounds, sounds became textures, textures became emotions. His senses, untethered from physical reality, struggled to interpret input that defied categorization. Then, gradually, the chaos organized itself. The swirling colors coalesced into a vast, empty plane stretching to horizons that curved upward instead of downward, as though he stood inside a cosmic sphere rather than upon a flat surface. The sky, if it could be called that, pulsed with geometric patterns that somehow conveyed mathematical equations describing the fundamental nature of reality. Naruto looked down at his hands, confirming that his physical form remained intact. The metallic band around his forehead hummed with gentle vibration, apparently functioning as intended. He attempted to channel chakra, finding that it responded normally, yet somehow felt different, more fluid, less constrained by the pathways that typically governed its flow. Well, this is trippy, he muttered, his voice echoing strangely, as though speaking simultaneously in multiple overlapping dimensions. You always did have a gift for understatement, came a familiar voice from behind him. Naruto W. hurled to find Sasuke standing there, or something that appeared to be Sasuke, dressed in the attire he'd worn during their final battle at the Valley of the End. The apparition watched him with mismatched eyes, one onyx black, one bearing the concentric circles of the Rinnegan. You're not really Sasuke, Naruto stated, remembering Vados's warning about manifestations. I am the Sasuke that exists in your mind, the figure corrected. The rival, the brother, the counterbalance. I represent your understanding of power through conflict and loss. Before Naruto could respond, another figure appeared beside the Sasuke apparition, Gaara, bearing the cracked container of sand from their childhood confrontation. And I represent your understanding of power through empathy and shared pain, the Gaara manifestation stated. The possibility of redemption, of transformation through connection. More figures appeared in rapid succession: Kakashi, Sakura, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Hinata, Iruka, each introducing themselves as representations of different aspects of Naruto's understanding and relationship with power, purpose, and identity. Okay, this is getting crowded, Naruto observed, unsettled by the gathering of familiar faces that weren't quite right, too perfect in their embodiment of singular aspects, lacking the complex wholeness of the real people they resembled. We are here to guide and challenge you. The Jiraiya manifestation explained. The convergence chamber has accessed your memories and conceptual frameworks to create intermediaries you can comprehend. Because the raw dimensional convergence would break my mind, Naruto guessed. Precisely, the Kakashi figure nodded. Now, shall we begin? You have limited time, even in this expanded reality. Begin what, exactly? The manifestations exchanged glances before the Sasuke figure stepped forward. The dismantling and reconstruction of your energy systems, of course. The current configuration, chakra, Saiyan ki, N.D. natural energy is separate but parallel systems, is inefficient. True Ultra Sage instinct requires complete integration. And how do we do that? Combat, the Sasuke figure stated simply, drawing a spectral sword. Your energy systems respond most dynamically under pressure. We will provide that pressure. Without further warning, the manifestation attacked, moving with the perfect precision of idealized memory. Naruto dodged instinctively, only to find the Gaara figure flanking him, sand swirling toward him from another angle. Wait, Naruto protested, leaping upward to avoid the converging attacks. Shouldn't we discuss this first? Discussion is intellectual, the Jiraiya figure called from below. Integration must occur at a level beyond conscious thought. Your body must learn what your mind cannot teach it. And so began what felt like weeks of constant, evolving combat. The manifestations attacked in waves, combinations, and patterns designed to stress different aspects of Naruto's energy systems. When he relied too heavily on chakra, the Sasuke figure would counter with techniques specifically designed to disrupt chakra flow. When he shifted to Saiyan ki, the Veget, a manifestation which appeared on the second day, would exploit the weaknesses in his still developing control. The true challenge, Naruto gradually realized, wasn't defeating the manifestations, He was learning to flow between energy systems without the mental partitions that typically separated them. Each time he successfully navigated the transition, moving from chakra to ki to natural energy and back, the process became more fluid. The boundaries more permeable. On what felt like the fifth day, though he'd lost all reliable sense of time, something changed. During a particularly intense exchange with manifestations of both Sasuke and Jiren simultaneously, Naruto found himself cornered, options exhausted. Chakra reserves depleted, ki pathways strained, even Sage mode proving insufficient against the relentless assault. In that moment of desperation, he stopped fighting the separation. Instead of trying to switch between systems or force them to work in parallel, he surrendered to the fundamental truth that Vados and Marcarita had been trying to convey. At their core, all energies were manifestations of the same underlying force, differentiated only by the framework's imposing structure upon them. The effect was immediate and transformative. The boundaries dissolved not through force but through recognition of their fundamental illusory nature. Chakra, ki, and natural RGY flowed together like tributaries joining to form a river, their combined current far more powerful than the sum of their individual strengths. Golden-orange light erupted from Naruto's body, aiding outward in pulsating waves that distorted the already impossible geometry of the chamber. His perception expanded exponentially, consciousness extending beyond the limitations of individual identity to embrace a more universal awareness. The manifestations paused their assault, watching with expressions that shifted between approval and concern. He's achieving integration faster than anticipated, the Kakashi figure observed. The foundation is forming, but the structure remains unstable. Too much, too quickly, agreed the Jiraiya manifestation. The mortal mind requires time to adapt to such expansion. The Sasuke figure stepped forward, Rinnegan glowing with increased intensity. Then we must provide stabilization through opposition. Controlled resistance to channel the convergence. What followed was no longer combat in any conventional sense, but something more akin to an elaborately choreographed dance. The manifestations moved in precise patterns around Naruto, our energies interacting with his newly integrated field in ways that reinforced emerging structures while dissipating dangerous instabilities. Through it all, Naruto remained in a state of semi-conscious awareness, present yet detached. Individual yet expanded, images and concepts flooded his perception. The mathematical principles underlying reality, the harmonic frequencies connecting disparate dimensions. The intricate dance of subatomic particles responding to consciousness itself. When he finally emerged from the chamber, stumbling through the doorway to collapse at Vados's feet, only 7 minutes had passed in objective reality. But the being that returned was fundamentally changed from the one who had entered. Remarkable, Vados murmured, kneeling beside his trembling form. Full neural energetic reconfiguration without identity fragmentation. The probability was less than 0.8%. Naruto struggled to focus on her voice, his senses still calibrating to conventional reality. Colors left trails in his vision. Sounds carried visual components, and Vados' energy signature manifested as complex geometric patterns overlaying her physical form. Did it work? He managed, his voice raw as though he'd been screaming for days. Beyond expectation, Vados confirmed, helping him to a sitting position. Your energy systems have begun true integration, though the process remains incomplete. The foundation for Ultra Sage Instinct has been established. Feels like my brain got rewired, Naruto murmured, pressing his palms against his temples. Everything's too much. A temporary side effect, Vados assured him. Your enhanced perception will stabilize as your consciousness adapts to the integration. Rest now. Tomorrow, you journey to Universe 11 to continue your training under Marcarita and Jiren. Naruto wanted to respond, to ask more questions about the changes he could feel rippling through his being, but exhaustion claimed him before he could form the words. He collapsed into darkness, his last conscious thought a strange certainty that he would never dream the same way again. Present day, Justice Chamber, Universe 11. Your mind wanders again, Jiren observed, breaking Naruto from his reverie. Focus is the foundation of power. Actually, Marcarita interjected, studying Naruto with increased interest, his energy fluctuations suggest integration processing rather than distraction. The chamber's effects continue to unfold. Naruto straightened, wiping blood from his chin. It's like recursive echoes. Experiences from the chamber keep expanding, revealing new layers. In the 5 days since his emergence from the convergence chamber, these episodes had become familiar, moments when his consciousness seemed to fold in upon itself, accessing insights embedded during his time in the dimensional intersection. Each occurrence left him with new understanding, though articulating these revelations to others proved challenging. Fascinating, Marcarita murmured, tracing patterns in the air with her staff. Holographic representations of Naruto's energy signature appeared, complex, multidimensional structures that pulsed and shifted in real time. The integration progresses non-linearly. Each recursive processing cycle accelerates subsequent development. Jiren studied the display with narrowed eyes. Inefficient. Power should be direct, absolute. These fluctuations create vulnerability. Perhaps, Marcarita acknowledged, or perhaps they represent an evolutionary approach to power acquisition, adaptive rather than fixed. A different path, but not necessarily inferior. The debate between stable, absolute power and adaptive, evolving strength had become a recurring theme in Naruto's training with Universe 11's champions. Jiren embodied the former philosophy, his tremendous strength built upon unshakable conviction and singular purpose. Naruto's developing Ultra Sage Instinct represented the latter, power that grew through integration and adaptation rather than purification and focus. Let's try a different approach, Marcarita suggested, dismissing the holographic display. Toppo's Justice M. Editation might provide the stabilizing framework needed for the next integration phase. As if summoned by his name, the mustached leader of the Pride Troopers entered the Justice Chamber, his massive frame somehow conveying both power and dignity. Unlike Jiren's minimalist uniform, Toppo wore elaborate regalia befitting his status as both warrior and potential god of destruction candidate. Interdimensional travelers training proceeds apace. Toppo inquired formally, his resonant voice carrying the gravitas of natural authority. Progress continues, though not along expected vectors, Marcarita replied. We believe your meditation techniques may provide beneficial structure to his developing integration. Toppo nodded solemnly. The path of justice illuminates even the most chaotic energies. I shall guide him through the primary harmonic sequences. Naruto suppressed a smile at Toppo's grandiose manner of speaking. In 5 days, he'd grown accustomed to the Pride Trooper Ader's formal diction and ceremonial approach to practically everything, from combat training to cafeteria meals. Beneath the bombastic exterior, however, lay genuine wisdom and a commitment to justice that Naruto found admirable. If somewhat rigid, the justice meditation requires specific environmental conditions, Toppo explained, gesturing expansively. We shall relocate to the harmonic chamber. They followed him through the labyrinthine corridors of Universe 11's Justice Headquarters, a massive complex that served as both training facility and operational center for the Pride Troopers' multi-system peacekeeping activities. Unlike Universe 6's organic architectural style or Universe 7's eclectic approach, Universe 11's aesthetic favored geometric precision and functional elegance. Every angle, every proportion, every material choice seemed deliberately calculated to reinforce the universe's prevailing philosophy of order through justice. The harmonic chamber proved to be a perfect embodiment of this philosophy, a perfectly spherical room whose walls, floor, and ceiling were covered in reflective panels arranged in mathematical patterns. As they entered, the panels activated, emitting subtle frequencies that Naruto could perceive not just audibly but visually and tactilely as well, another side effect of his enhanced sensory integration. The chamber generates primary justice frequencies, Toppo explained, assuming a meditative posture at the center of the room. These vibrations align consciousness with universal harmonic principles, facilitating energy coherence. The resonant frequencies Marcarita mentioned, Naruto observed, taking a position opposite Toppo. Precisely so. Toppo's bushy eyebrows raised in approval. You comprehend the fundamental premise. Most auspicious. Jiren remained near the entrance, arms crossed, observing with his usual stoic expression. Though he participated in Naruto's combat training, he generally abstained from the more philosophical or technical aspects, considering them unnecessary embellishments to the pure pursuit of strength. Begin by aligning your breathing with the primary frequency, Toppo instructed, closing his eyes. Inhale for 7 counts. Hold for 3, exhale for 7. The pattern echoes the fundamental justice harmonic. Naruto complied, quickly finding the rhythm. As his breathing synchronized with the room's subtle vibrations, he felt his newly integrated energy responding, the golden-orange aura manifesting more steadily than before, pulsing in time with the harmonic frequencies. Excellent, Marcarita commented, circling them with analytical interest. The environmental resonance is stabilizing his integration framework. Probability of successful progression has increased by 27%. For the next 2 hours, Toppo guided Naruto through increasingly complex meditation sequences, each designed to reinforce specific aspects of energy harmonization while introducing justice principle. That Universe 11 believed underpinned cosmic order itself. The process was simultaneously exhausting and exhilarating. Unlike the chaotic immersion of the convergence chamber, Toppo's methods provide dead structured pathways for Naruto's expanding awareness to follow. The golden-orange aura of partial Ultra Sage Instinct manifestation stabilized, becoming less erratic, though still not permanent. Your progress exceeds expectation, Toppo declared as they concluded the session. Few beings comprehend justice harmonics so readily upon first exposure. The interdimensional boundaries in his native reality likely operate on similar principles, Marcarita theorized. His chakra system evolved in an environment where dimensional harmonics were foundational rather than exceptional. Or perhaps, came a new voice from the doorway. He simply possesses natural aptitude that transcends universal constants. They turned to find Hinata entering the harmonic chamber, accompanied by a female Ride Trooper Naruto recognized as Kokot, a specialist in dimensional manipulation who had been working with Hinata on applications of her enhanced Byakugan. Hinata. Naruto's face lit with genuine pleasure. Though they both trained in Universe 11, their different specializations meant they saw each other only intermittently. How's your research going? The subtle golden rings around her Byakugan pupils seemed more pronounced than before, and her movements carried a new grace, as though she had become more attuned to the dimensional currents flowing around her. We've made a breakthrough, she announced, her quiet voice carrying unexpected authority. The enhanced Byakugan can now perceive dimensional weak points up to 17 parsecs distant, triple our previous range. Most impressive, Marcarita acknowledged with a slight incline of her head, significant recognition from the typically reserved angel. But that's not why we're here, Hinata continued, her expression growing serious. We've detected a pattern in the dimensional disturbances. They're not random, or even strategic as we initially thought. They're communicating. Toppo's bushy eyebrows drew together in confusion. Elaborate, please. Kokot stepped forward, activating a holographic display from her wrist device. The disturbances occur in sequences, patterns that repeat with subtle variations. When mapped against known communication protocols, they show an 87% correlation with encrypted information transfer. The display showed a three-dimensional representation of dimensional breaches across multiple systems, connected by lines that indeed formed patterns too regular to be coincidental. The Otsutsuki aren't just testing our defenses, Hinata explained. They're exchanging information through the dimensional breaches themselves, using the distortions as both message and medium. Even Jiren abandoned his position by the wall, approaching to study the display with narrowed eyes. What information do they exchange? We've only partially decoded it, Kokot admitted. But references to the vessel appear repeatedly, along with temporal coordinates that suggest synchronized action in approximately 9 days. Just before the Tournament of Power, Naruto realized a cold sensation spreading through his chest. They're planning something during the tournament, and the universes will be focused elsewhere. A logical strategic approach, Marcarita observed, her usual detachment giving way to evident concern. With universal champions occupied in Zeno's arena, defensive capabilities would be significantly compromised. We must alert Lord Belmont immediately, Toppo declared. If multiversal invasion coincides with the tournament, catastrophic consequences could ensue. There's more, Hinata said softly, her enhanced eyes meeting Naruto's. The vessel they refer to, the encryption key is your energy signature. They're coming for you specifically, Naruto-kun. The revelation hung in the air, bringing clarity to Momoshiki's earlier words. Naruto wasn't merely collateral in their invasion plans, he was a primary objective. His unique energy composition made him valuable to their interdimensional expansion. Well, Naruto said after a moment, attempting levity despite the gravity of the situation, at least I'm popular in multiple dimensions. No one laughed. This development necessitates acceleration of your training regimen, Marcarita stated, her staff pulsing with increased luminosity. If you are indeed their primary target, Aki, Ving full Ultra Sage instinct before their coordinated incursion becomes imperative. 9 days, Naruto murmured, the timeline seeming simultaneously distant and impossibly close. Can we really complete in 9 days what should take years? Necessity has always been your most effective catalyst, Hinata reminded him gently. Remember Pain's invasion, the Fourth War. You've always found strength when the need was greatest. Her confidence warmed him, pushing back against the cold weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Yet this challenge differed fundamentally from previous ones, not merely requiring more power, but a complete transformation of how that power functioned. The girl speaks truth, Jiren stated unexpectedly, his deep voice drawing everyone's attention. Limmy, T-breaking occurs at convergence points of necessity and possibility. Your potential exists. The necessity is manifest. Only your will remains in question. Coming from Jiren, this was practically a motivational speech. Naruto straightened, meeting the stoic warrior's intense gaze. My will has never been the problem, he stated firmly. Point me toward the next step, and I'll take it. Marcarita and Toppo exchanged glances. Some unspoken communication passing between them. There is one option, Marcarita said carefully. Though Lord Belmont has forbidden its use since the temporal catastrophe 3 million years ago. The Crucible of Transcendence, Toppo murmured, stroking his mustache thoughtfully. A desperate measure, indeed. Okay, what is it with you cosmic types and ominously named training methods? Naruto asked, only half joking. First the hyperbolic convergence chamber, now a Crucible of Transcendence. Do you deliberately name these things to sound terrifying? A hint of amusement flickered across Marcarita's features. The names reflect their function and risk profile. The Crucible is aptly designated. It is a sacred ritual of Universe 11, Toppo explained with characteristic solemnity. Dating back to the previous cosmic cycle, the Crucible temporarily connects a mortal consciousness to the cosmic oversoul, the collective awareness that permeates all existence. In practical terms, Marcarita continued more directly, it would allow you to experience all possible manifestations of your power simultaneously, across every potential timeline and dimensional variation. The insights gained typically require centuries to process naturally. The Crucible compresses that experience into a single moment of transcendent awareness. That sounds intense, Naruto observed. understating dramatically. What's the catch? There's always a catch with these things. Perceptive, Marcarita acknowledged. The catch, as you put it, is substantial. Mortal consciousness is not designed to process multidimensional awareness. The resulting cognitive dissonance can shatter identity structures permanently. Even with protective measures, the risk of personality fragmentation exceeds 60%. Quote, meaning I could lose myself, become someone else, or multiple someones, Marcarita confirmed grimly. The temporal catastrophe resulted from a pride true. Her who emerged from the crucible with 17 distinct personality fragments, each capable of manipulating temporal energy independently. The resulting timeline disruptions required direct intervention from the Grand Priest to resolve. So it's super risky, potentially reality-breaking, and technically forbidden, Naruto summarized. But it might help me achieve Ultra Sage instinct before Momoshiki's invasion. A succinct assessment, Marcarita agreed. Naruto turned to Hinata, whose expression reflected both concern and understanding. What do you think? I think, she said after a thoughtful pause, that you've never backed down from risk when others were in danger. But this isn't just about physical danger, Naruto-kun. This is about who you are, your very identity. Identity is not fixed, Jiren interjected unexpectedly. It is forged through trials, choices, experiences. The warrior who fears transformation cannot achieve transcendence. Pretty philosophical for someone who usually communicates in power blasts and disapproving grunts, Naruto observed, earning a glare from the stoic pride trooper. Jiren speaks from experience, Marcarita revealed. He underwent the Crucible ritual 73 years ago. It contributed significantly to his current power level. This revelation cast Jiren in a new light. The universe's strongest mortal had willingly risked Rs onality fragmentation in pursuit of strength, a testament to his absolute commitment to power as the ultimate truth. Did it change you? Naruto asked him directly. Are you still the same person you were before? Something complex passed through Jiren's typically impassive eyes, a flash of memory, perhaps, a reflection. I am more concentrated. Extraneous aspects burned away, leaving only what serves my purpose. That's not exactly reassuring, Naruto muttered. The crucible affects each individual differently, Marcarita clarified. It amplifies core identity traits while potentially eliminating contradictory elements. Jiren's singular focus became more pronounced. Your own multifaceted nature might respond, unpredictably. The decision weighed heavily. The risk to his identity, to the very essence of who Naruto Uzumaki was, couldn't be dismissed. Yet neither could the threat of Momoshiki's invasion or the potential destruction awaiting the losing universes in the Tournament of Power. If I do this, he said slowly, what's the best case outcome? Complete integration of all energy systems, full manifestation of Ultra Sage instinct, and accelerated mastery of its applications, Marcarita answered promptly. Essentially, compressing years of development into a single transformative experience. And can we improve the odds? Reduce that 60% fragmentation risk? Marcarita considered this. There are protective measures that could be implemented. Consciousness anchors, identity stabilizers. With proper preparation, the risk could potentially be reduced to approximately 35%. Still terrible odds, Naruto observed. Yet better than the probability of achieving full Ultra Sage instinct through conventional methods within the available timeframe, Marcarita countered. Which current models place at approximately 12.7%. Naruto fell silent, weighing impossible choices with incomplete information, a situation distressingly familiar throughout his life. Finally, he looked up, meeting each person's gaze in turn before settling on Marcarita's ancient eyes. I need time to think, he decided. And I want to know everything about this crucible, how it works, what exactly happens. All the potential outcomes. No cosmic mysticism or vague warnings. Concrete details. A hint of approval showed in Marcarita's expression. A wise approach. I shall prepare a comprehensive briefing on the crucible's mechanics and documented effects. Toppo can provide first-hand testimony from pride troopers who have undergone the ritual successfully. And I wish to speak with Jiren alone, Naruto added, surprising everyone, including the stoic warrior himself. After a moment of silence, Jiren gave a curt nod of agreement. Very well, Marcarita conceded. We shall. I'll reconvene in 4 hours to continue this discussion. By then, Lord Belmont will have been consulted regarding the potential waiver of his prohibition. As the others filed out of the harmonic chamber, Hinata lingered briefly. Touching Naruto's arm, "Trust yourself," she said simply. "Whatever you decide." When they were alone, Naruto approached Jiren, who stood impassively in the center of the chamber. Arms crossed in his characteristic pose. "I want the truth," Naruto stated directly. "Not the official version, not the Pride Trooper propaganda. What did the Crucible really do to you?" For a long moment, Jiren remained silent, his penetrating gaze evaluating Naruto with inhuman intensity. Then, surprisingly, he moved to one of the chamber's walls and deactivated the harmonic panels, cutting down the room's energy emissions. "Privacy," he explained tersely. "Some truths are not for institutional records." Naruto waited as Jiren seemed to gather his thoughts, an unusual display of hesitation from the normally decisive warrior. "The crucible burns," Jiren finally began, his deep voice quieter than usual. "Not physical fire, but consciousness itself subjected to transformation. It shows you every version of yourself across all possible timelines. Every choice, every outcome, every failure, every triumph." He uncrossed his arms, an uncharacteristic display of openness. Quote, "I saw versions where I failed to achieve strength. Versions where I succumbed to the same evil that destroyed my master. Versions where I abandoned justice for expedience." His eyes narrowed. "And Saiyans where I transcended mortal limitations entirely. And you chose which version to become?" Naruto asked. "Not precisely." Jiren seemed to struggle with articulating the experience. "The Crucible does not offer choice in the conventional sense. It reveals essential truth beneath surface variation. The common denominator across all versions of self. Your core identity," Naruto suggested. "Yes." Jiren nodded. "For me, that core was singular purpose, the absolute pursuit of strength as the only reliable truth in an unreliable cosmos. Other aspects, doubt, connection, compromise, these were revealed as transient, non-essential. So the Crucible didn't just show you possibilities, it judged which parts of you were essential, and which weren't," Naruto observed, troubled by the implication. "It revealed truth," Jiren corrected. "The judgment was my own, though influenced by the experience." "And you don't regret it? Losing those other aspects of yourself?" Something like uncertainty flickered across Jiren's typically impassive features. "Regret is irrelevant to truth. I am stronger, more focused, better able to uphold justice through strength." "But are you happier?" Naruto pressed. Jiren stared at him as though the question made no sense. "Happiness is subjective, strength is absolute. See, that right there tells me you lost something important," Naruto said, shaking his head. "Even if you don't recognize what it is anymore." Jiren's expression hardened. "You asked for truth. I have provided it. The Crucible offers power through refinement. What you sacrifice and what you gain will differ from my experience. Your core may not be singular as mine is." "That's what I'm afraid of," Naruto admitted. "My whole life has been about bringing different parts together, not stripping away what doesn't fit some cosmic definition of essential. If the Crucible tries to make me choose between being a shinobi, a Saiyan, a sage, or whatever else I am, then perhaps you are not suited to its process," Jiren stated bluntly. "Not all paths to power are compatible with all warriors." The assessment stung, but Naruto recognized the underlying truth. He Crucible had worked for Jiren precisely because his nature already tended toward singular focus. Naruto's strength had always come from integration, from bringing disparate elements together rather than distilling them to a pure essence. "There is one other factor to consider," Jiren added after a moment. "The Crucible's effect appears correlated with dimensional stability. Meaning, those with connections to multiple dimensions, rare beings like yourself, often experience less reduction, more transformation than refinement." A barely perceptible shift in Jiren's expression suggested. This information was not widely shared. Lord Belmod's prohibition followed the temporal catastrophe, but preceded it was a successful transcendence by a being from a dimensional intersection. "What happened to them?" Naruto asked, suddenly intensely curious. "They achieved integration without significant identity loss," Jiren stated. But the power gained proved difficult to control initially. There were incidents. Incidents, Naruto repeated flatly. That sounds ominous. The details remain classified at the highest level, Jiren replied. I know only that the being eventually achieved stability and now serves a significant cosmic function. This new information added yet another layer of complexity to an already impossible decision. The Crucible might be more compatible with Naruto's multidimensional nature than initially suggested, but potentially at the cost of temporary instability that could pose its own dangers. Thank you for being honest, Naruto said finally. It helps, even if it doesn't make the decision any easier. Jiren nodded once, then reactivated the harmonic panels before resuming his crossed-arm stance. Their private conversation was clearly over, the momentary openness receding behind the warrior's typical stoic facade. As Naruto left the harmonic chamber to seek solitude for reflection, his thoughts churned with contradictory impulses. Pragmatic necessity of power acquisition warred with philosophical concerns about identity preservation. The multiversal threat demanded decisive action, yet rushed decisions carried catastrophic potential. He found himself on an observation deck overlooking Universe 11's capital city, a marvel of geometric precision and functional beauty. Unlike the chaotic vibrancy of Konoha or the technological sprawl of Capsule Corporation, this metropolis reflected the universe's fundamental philosophy: order through justice, form following function, individual components harmonizing to create a greater whole. Quite the view, isn't it? Came Marcarita's voice from behind him. The manifestation of Universe 11's guiding principle, justice expressed through harmonic order. Naruto hadn't heard her approach. Angels could move with absolute silence when they chose to. It's beautiful, he acknowledged. But also a little rigid. An astute observation, Marcarita replied, moving to stand beside him at the transparent barrier. Each universe expresses the personality of its divine custodians. Lord Belmod values precision, clarity, and defined boundaries. The civilization reflects these values accordingly. Like Universe 6 reflects Champa's enthusiasms. Naruto suggested diplomatically, thinking of the food-obsessed destroyer god. A hint of amusement touched Marcarita's lips. Indeed, the multiverse contains sufficient diversity to accommodate all expressions of divine temperament. They stood in companionable silence for several minutes, watching the methodical patterns of activity in the city below. Unlike his early interactions with Marcarita, which had been formally instructional and somewhat distant, something had shifted in their dynamic over the past days. A subtle warmth had entered her typically analytical demeanor, particularly during moments of solitude like this. I'm sorry for intruding on your reflection time, she said eventually. I sensed your energy, fluctuations and thought you might benefit from context. Marcarita turned to face him fully, her ancient eyes studying his face with an intensity that might have been uncomfortable from anyone else. About the Crucible, about choices, about the nature of identity itself. She tapped her staff once against the floor, and the view before them shifted, no longer showing the city, but instead a swirling cosmic vista of universes in motion, connected by flowing currents of energy and probability. Angels perceive reality differently than mortals, she explained. We see not just what is, but what could be, what has been, what might become. Identity, from our perspective, is not fixed but fluid, a constantly evolving navigation through infinite possibility. That sounds overwhelming, Naruto observed. For a mortal consciousness, it would be, Marcarita agreed. Which is why the Crucible is both powerful and dangerous. It temporarily grants a mortal mind access to a RSPECTIVE typically reserved for divine beings. The cosmic display shifted again, focusing on a singular point of light that seemed to contain multiple overlapping patterns, a visual representation, Naruto realized, of his own multidimensional nature. Your situation is unique, Marcarita continued. Most beings exist primarily in a single dimension, with a correspondingly singular identity structure. You exist at an intersection, shinobi, Saiyan, sage, Jinchuriki, each aspect genuine, none comprehensive alone. So what happens when someone like me enters the Crucible? Naruto asked, voicing his central concern. Do I have to choose between these aspects? That is the conventional understanding, Marcarita acknowledged. Based primarily on Jiren's experience and the temporal catastrophe. But there is another possibility that few have considered. She waved her staff again, and the representation of Naruto's multidimensional nature transformed, not simplifying into a singular pattern, but instead integrating into a more complex, harmonious whole. Integration rather than selection, she explained. The crucible typically forces choice because most beings already contain internal contradictions that cannot sustainably coexist. Their transcendence requires resolution of these contradictions through selection of essential aspects. But my different aspects aren't necessarily contradictory, Naruto realized. Understanding dawning. They're complementary, different expressions of compatible underlying principles. Precisely. For the first time since they'd met, Marcarita's expression showed genuine admiration. Your natural tendency toward integration rather than exclusion may interact with the crucible very differently than anticipated. Is that good or bad? Unknown, she admitted candidly. It creates significant uncertainty in outcome prediction. However, she hesitated, then continued with uncharacteristic personal investment. I believe the probability of successful integration exceeds conventional models. Naruto studied her with newfound curiosity. Why are you telling me this? Isn't this kind of off-script for an angel? Marcarita's gaze returned to the cosmic display, her profile etched against the swirling galaxies. Angels are tasked with observing, guiding, and maintaining cosmic balance. Within these parameters exists considerable discretion regarding information sharing. That's not really an answer, Naruto pointed out gently. A barely perceptible smile touched her lips. Perhaps not. Let us say that your development presents unique cosmic implications that merit personalized guidance. There was something in her tone, a subtle inflection that suggested more than her words conveyed. Naruto had noticed similar moments with Vados, instances where the angel's interests seemed to transcend their official responsibilities, touching on something more personal. You know, he said thoughtfully, for beings who are supposed to be detached cosmic observers. You and Vados seem pretty invested in my situation. Marcarita turned to him, and for a brief moment, the ageless mask of angel composure slipped, revealing something softer, more vulnerable. Is that so surprising? Even after millions of years of existence, genuine novelty remains precious. You represent a convergence of possibilities unprecedented in cosmic history. So I'm a cosmic curiosity, Naruto concluded, echoing his earlier conversation with Vados. You are much more than that, Marcarita corrected, her voice taking on a quality he hadn't heard before. You are potential manifested, a being who stands at the intersection of worlds, energies, philosophies, navigating contradictions that should be irreconcilable, yet somehow finding harmony where others would see only chaos. Quote, she stepped closer, close enough that Naruto could see subtle variations of color in her pale blue skin, the infinite depth behind her ancient eyes. Such beings are rare beyond calculation. In my existence spanning millions of years, I have encountered perhaps 3 individuals who approached similar potential. What happened to them? Naruto asked, suddenly aware of how close they stood, how the typical formality between them had dissolved into something more intimate. They changed everything, Marcarita answered simply. Reality itself bent around their choices, their growth, their transcendence. Her gaze held his with unusual directness. Just as it bends around you now, though you cannot yet perceive it fully. Before Naruto could respond to this extraordinary statement, a communication alert chimed from Marcarita's staff, breaking the moment. She stepped back, professional composure returning seamlessly as she consulted the glowing orb atop her instrument. Lord Belmont has made his decision regarding the crucible, she announced, her tone returning to its usual analytical precision. He will meet with us in 1 hour to discuss terms and conditions. And if I haven't decided by then? Naruto asked. The option remains available regardless, Marcarita assured him. Lord Belmont's approval simply establishes the procedural framework. The choice itself remains yours alone. She turned to leave, then paused, looking back over her shoulder. Whatever you decide, Naruto Uzumaki, know that you have already altered cosmic trajectories in ways that will echo through millennia. The crucible would simply accelerate what has already begun. With that enigmatic statement, she departed, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts and the slowly fading cosmic display. As the view returned to the methodical city below, he found his mind unusually clear despite the momentous decision before him. The Crucible represented both tremendous risk and unprecedented opportunity, a potential shortcut to the power needed to face Momoshiki's invasion and the Tournament of Power. Yet the risk to his identity, to the very essence of who Naruto Uzumaki had become through years of struggle and growth, could not be dismissed. What ultimately tilted the balance was neither pragmatic necessity nor fear of loss, but something more fundamental: trust. Trust in his own resilience. In the integrity of his core values across dimensions and identities. Trust that what made him uniquely himself would endure even cosmic transcendence. When he finally left the observation deck to meet Lord Belmont, his decision was made. Whatever awaited in the crucible of transcendence, integration or fragmentation, power or dissolution, he would face it as he had faced every impossible challenge in his life, with unwavering determination and the absolute refusal to back down when others depended on him. The universe bent around his choice, though he could not yet see it. But the angels could, and somewhere in the cosmic tapestry, patterns shifted, possibilities realigned, and destiny itself held its breath in anticipation. Chapter 4 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.